Let's freaking go. Let's go. We have a lot to get to tonight. We do have a Power Hour LSU bracket challenge. So the link is located in the pinned post of tonight's live stream. If you want the link and you're watching this later on, it'll be down below in the comment section. And we are giving away some of my favorite cards, including this sealed DJ Chark autographed jersey patch that he actually wore. So we're going to give that out. We're going to give out so many other prizes. I'm still deciding on a few of them. I know we're giving out a Jamar Chase something, but we are going to do a public giveaway. And then I'm also going to give a prize to the highest patron. So be on the lookout for that. And I guarantee you want to be a part of the PHL Patreon. Now, something else that we're going to talk about tonight is, well, a big-time commitment. Devon Keys, a 3-star linebacker out of Aledo, Texas. Aledo has been a little brutal to LSU lately, with 2 commitments coming from there just for them to flip in recent years. So this is something that has happened with some players from that area, but it looks as if this kid, Keys, is really locked in on coming to LSU. He's been very public that his recruitment was closed. He did a tweet about this last week. So he seems pretty locked in on joining LSU. And obviously, what LSU is going to look for now for the 2024 class is getting some offensive players to commit to, guess what? Join the great Colin Hurley as a part of this LSU class. So LSU doing a really good job recruiting linebacker and DB so far in this class. So LSU doing a good job just defensively overall in this class up to this point. I also tonight want to talk about Jackson Howard. So LSU, and you guys might think I am just making this stuff up, but I honestly think one thing you can always look for is who gets certain jersey numbers, right? May not sound like a whole lot to you, but they give Jackson Howard a number 11 jersey, okay? So it's not one of the more historic numbers at LSU, but it is one of the lower digit numbers, and those do sometimes go to true freshmen. That was a number that he wore in high school. And what's very interesting here with Jackson Howard is, and he is the thumbnail of this video, is his position is wide open. Okay, the jack linebacker position is wide open. LSU has already made a little bit of a statement up to this point in spring practices. From what we've seen, our guy, Harold Perkins, who is the best player on this defense, arguably the best player on this team. I think most NFL evaluators would have him or Malik Neighbors as the number 1 player on the team overall. I think Jackson Howard gets a pretty golden opportunity here because Harold Perkins is now working with the off-ball linebackers when they actually get divvied up in their position groups. And for me, that is the biggest takeaway from spring up to this point, because there was so much debate over where's Harold Perkins' actual best position, because last year, of course, they just had him roam. I think that's what they're going to want to do with him next year as well. And I do think in a perfect world, LSU wants to actually start him as potentially a nickel. Because that's kind of what he played this past year when he was on the field for early downs. And they were in a traditional 4-3 alignment, but it wasn't really a traditional 4-3 alignment because nothing about Harold Perkins is traditional. So Jackson Howard has a good opportunity. The guys that are ahead of him are more seasoned, Ovie Oghoufo, and of course, Braden Swinson. We don't know exactly where the best position is for Deshaun Womack, who I think is a better player than Jackson Howard up to this point. But if they view Deshaun Womack as a player in Jamar Cain's position group, then his hand will be in the dirt and he won't be a jack linebacker, okay? So obviously, Jackson Howard is a guy who is, along with Whit Weeks, one of the more versatile players on LSU's team. Jackson Howard is a guy who played quarterback in high school some. He's a guy who played off-ball linebacker quite a bit last year, his final year in Minnesota high school football. He is a guy that has a lot of good tight end tape where you begin to wonder, is this guy better tight end than he is an actual defensive end or edge linebacker, if you will? So, he's not the most highly touted player in this class, but he also checks an important box for me. Top 150 recruits do historically, and more so top 100 recruits. Jackson Howard, early in his recruitment, was around that 100 mark. He slid down to the 120s, but top 150 recruits tend to move the needle more than non-top 150 guys. So it is very, very, very interesting. As we say hi to Jordan, we say hi to Skipper, Branton. Yes, the link to the bracket challenge is in the Discord. See a lot of Discordians here at the start of tonight's Sunday night live stream. Once again, no Saturday live streams during the off season. We will do an occasional Saturday night live stream, but the majority of you have whispered to me that you enjoy the weekend live stream to be on Sunday. I kind of want to go Saturday and Sunday nights. That's perfectly fine with me. I would go live every night, but I don't want you guys to get tired of me. So we'll still do some Saturday night live streams. I know some of you miss those, but let's be honest, Sunday does tend to be a little bit better for a lot of you. Now, there are a lot of stories outside of the world of LSU football that are absolutely massive. Obviously, the biggest is the LSU women's basketball team getting a 3 seed. I know some people wanted them to get a 2 seed. I'm fine with them getting a 3 seed. So, yeah, they get a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. And I think even a bigger story for a lot of you is the dominant run for LSU baseball. Don't think I haven't been paying attention. I don't really watch, I'm going to be honest with you, but and I'm not the LSU baseball expert. I always say there are other channels that cover it way better than I ever would. But I'm very impressed with LSU baseball, and it does seem as if Dylan Cruz might be transcendent. Okay. You guys know I don't like to use that word a lot. I don't like to consider players transcendent. That is saved for the Joe Burrows and the Patrick Petersons and the Ashley Claire Kearneys and whoever, right? You guys know, like, if you say somebody is transcendent, it's got to be without reasonable doubt that they are amongst, the best. I think Haley Bryant recently, I love that name, by the way. She recently reached that with all the perfect 10 she's gotten. But I think Dylan Cruz is, very well, could be the best LSU baseball player ever. And those are people that know the sport way better than I do, saying that. And I don't like to overhype people, especially if they are still playing right now. I don't think Dylan Cruz wants to be told that either, because it is kind of hard to play when people are already saying, hey, you're the best thing ever, and you haven't even started, your pro career. But, the Brad Cressies, the Ben McDonalds, the Todd Walkers, whoever you want to mention, he is in that category. DJ LeMahieu, Jared Mitchell. So, Branson Cat says Cruz has been transcendent. I think this is fair, especially coming into the season when you're the consensus number 1 overall pick. But then again, I just, I might, this might be over my knowledge, right? Now, something else I want to make an official announcement on. We don't have the date set just yet, but Branson Cat and Donovan D. Riley, both patrons, got into a little bit of a heated debate, and they both happen to be musicians. So we were going to do a sing-off of Tennessee Whiskey, a song that I would say probably 70 to 80% of you have heard or familiar with. You've heard it at weddings. The most popular version is sung by, Chris Stapleton, but George Jones and David Allen Coe had their own versions of it. So we were going to do that, but I am not a qualified judge to judge a country music singing contest because I don't know a whole lot about music. Now, I do have 5 years in the country music industry. I am not that guy, though. I'm not that guy, pal. So we have a confirmed country music artist who has pretty much accomplished everything you can accomplish short of actually winning, well, I won't give away too much. But I spoke to him today. It was the first time we talked to in years. Okay. Used to come on my show all the time. He's a great guy. And he is going to be our guest. And we're going to do it in May because that's when his tour schedule is open because he's got to perform all these sold out shows. So if you're a country music fan, Branson and Donovan Rillian are both very talented musicians. We're going to talk about that when the day comes up. So we're going to have a little bit of PHL Idol. The Master Blaster. What's up, baby? Tyler, what's good? Good to see you. Cliff watches all the LSU baseball games. Dylan Skeens, is that his name? Am I saying his name correctly? Skinnis? So oh yeah, Mondo Duplantis, the pole vaulter. So there you go. Branson Cat, he's super pumped up for it. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna get one of my radio buddies to actually judge it as well. We're gonna get a few other people. My goal now, this is a long shot because I know a lot of your country music fans. My goal is to get Lainey Wilson. Okay, because I've interviewed Lainey before, I've introduced her before, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of cool to say. When she wasn't as big as she is now, she's probably the number one female country artist on the planet right now. Well, at least top 5. Kelsey Ballerini and all those people, Carrie Underwood, Marina Lambert. You guys know what those names are. Okay. That's one of my goals. Now, are we going to get her on here? Probably not. But I love me some Lainey Wilson. And the LSU softball team. Thank you, Skipper, for holding me accountable. So I try my best to acknowledge those things. I know we're LSU football. I'm not blind to all of that, though. But you guys come here for LSU football talk. And spring is in the air. Now, the guys are on spring break. They had a Thursday practice and a Friday practice. The next time the media will be able to witness practice is on Tuesday. So we are definitely going to do more stuff when that time arises. Now, this next week of content, I've got a few things I want to go over this next week. We might do some spring practice breakdowns, but honestly, I went back and rewatched quite a bit of Jaden Daniels tape over the weekend, and I'm still learning the LSU offense from back to front, some of their tendencies, some of their weaknesses, and we're going to be doing a bunch of Jaden Daniels breakdowns because it's going to take a lot for him to not be the guy next year. He is probably going to be that guy, pal. Drinking is it Mezcal Mules? Okay. Or is it Moscow Mules? Or is it called Mezcal Mules? I love a good mule. I really do. I don't know why I'm not like in love with the taste of it, but when they put it in that small copper cup, it makes you feel sophisticated when you're actually drinking one of those at a bar. T-Pain, overrated, underrated. Music's always a risk, so alternative will look down on Alabama not suspending the G delivery guy. Okay, so I'm not allowed to actually say that word, I believe, on YouTube. So, yeah, I'm always very careful when talking about firearms, right? Because number one, that is not my specialty. Is the country music and firearms are definitely things I know a good bit about country, but still, I don't know anything really about firearms. Now, here's what I'll say about T-Pain. I have the good fortune through radio to have gotten to meet T-Pain when I was at Sirius, and I loved it. Also, he just happens to be one of my top 5 artists of all time. Well, he was auto-tuned. Go watch the NPR Tiny Desk concert and come back to me with that auto-tune mess. The guy is a musical genius, all right? T-Pain isn't just some scrub. He's not some auto-tune. Like, he's actually got some musical talent. I actually watched his documentary. That's how big of a fan I am of his. And honestly, when he started doing all the auto-tune stuff, he was doing it just to be different, right? And that sound became, very synonymous with where we are right now. Now, the documentary had more to do as well with the inventor of autotune and the science behind it. But then again, you're not here for music. But if I get a super chat, I'm going to talk about it. There's someone that always super chats. 2 or 3 not good as one is his name. He always super chats. Can he ask any questions? I don't know why. But T-Pain, if you actually guess what? Yes, he's got a lot of bangers that are, poppy kind of songs, right? Bartender, there's 1,000, right? Talk to me, I talk back. I love it. Buy you a drink. It's such a legendary song. And that was when I was in high school too. So I have a little bit more of a romanticism with that time in music. Now, is T-Pain up there with like Usher and maybe some of these other like R&B legends, Chris Brown? I mean, probably not, but for me, he is. Like, I mean, he's definitely top 5 for me, if not number 1 on my favorite artists of all time. Got to see him live at the NBA All-Star game, like an NBA All-Star game party a while back. So, I love T-Pain. It's just me. All right. Now, I will address, because it was super chatted. Once again, if you super chat, we'll go straight to it. I know we all have opinions about this Alabama basketball team controversy. Okay. We all like to have our opinions when it comes to serious matters. We talked a bit about the Jalen Carter situation not too long ago. It's a little bit more, we played him. A lot of you are familiar with him. And I think a lot of you are familiar with the Alabama basketball player, Brandon Miller, who delivered the firearm that ultimately ended the life of, a human being and a mother of a young child. He should have been suspended a game or two, right? You cannot allow that to absolve him of something that, whether or not, he willingly did it, it contributed to the end of life for a human being, right? And yes, he should not go to jail for it. Yes, he should not get in serious trouble for it. Yes, he should not get kicked off the team for it. But it would have been a message saying, look, if someone texts you to come help them do something at 1 a.m, we can get into a debate about whether he knew or not the firearm was in the back of the vehicle. But I think a good message here is, hey, if someone asks you to do something at 1 a.m and they are obviously agitated, really think about what you're about to do. And that goes for anyone. He's 19 years old. He's young. He didn't actually do it. He was there, but he really wasn't there. So I agree with suspending him a game or 2 or 3. Maybe, hear me out. And I thought about this earlier today. Maybe Alabama says, look, what we did was messed up. Let's sit him out for the first game of the NCAA tournament versus a 16 seed. We should still be able to win it, but obviously that's way overdue. And now that I think about it, that's even worse than not doing anything at all, honestly. We all have our thoughts about firearms in this country. We do. Okay. What I will say though is, and this is how I've always felt. Okay. So you guys might agree, you guys might disagree with what I'm about to say, but anytime you are out past midnight, okay, whatever happens to you is on you, okay, because you should be in bed. You shouldn't be out, okay? So, yes, no matter what you do, if you go out past midnight, nothing is going to happen other than bad things, okay? Nothing is going to happen other than bad things. Always remember that. Okay? Now, maybe some good things happen a time or two, but anything bad that happens to you at that time is partially on you. Okay. Now, there's varying degrees of what that is, but that's just how I see it. Okay. He did, or at the very least, near areas where alcohol is served. Okay. Now, am I saying that Brandon Miller doesn't have the right to go out? And he very much does. Just as Jalen Carter and the Georgia Bulldogs had the right to go out when they did. But how you act is different. Okay. Now, I always say, when it comes to issues of morality, that is not what the channel is built on. The channel is built on LSU football and discussions that mostly cover LSU football. But these are college students, and real life happens to them really quickly. Okay. Brandon Miller, who is from Antioch, Tennessee, outside of Nashville, is probably his first time he's been away from, your inner circle. Him being 19 and he actually not doing the nefarious action that ended somebody's life, I am sympathetic to him to a certain degree. I am. Okay. Now, one thing I will say, okay, and you guys feel free to super chat. We'll go to a different topic. I'm about to go to a different topic anyway. One thing I will say, though, is where I begin to really rethink certain players and things that happen is when multiple transgressions happen against you. Okay. Multiple things. That's when I begin to question your judgment. Okay. So, good example, Jalen Carter. Okay. Now, ironically, both of these incidents, the accident that ended the life of a Georgia football staffer and a football player, and the Alabama incident, they both happened near the exact same time on the exact same day. Both featured 5-star recruits that are going to be in the top 5 of their respective professions. Okay. So this is the 1% of the 0.01%. Okay. These are the elitist of the elite athletes. Okay. But one is a junior. One was clocked going 80 miles per hour in a 40 just a few months ago. And there's a video of the policeman telling Jalen Carter, hey, please slow down. Now, we don't know all the details of what exactly happened with that. What we do know is that he was involved, okay, in some shape, form, or fashion. So you tell me. All right. A 19-year-old versus more of an adult. Both of which are stupid. Both of which should be condemned. But they both missed a grand total of 0 games. Okay. And Jalen Carter is one of the best SEC football players ever. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That was truly incredible. That's one of those moments where, it's kind of like the Cam Newton run. When Jalen Carter did that to Jaden Daniels, who had been so Herculean for us in big spots, once he held him up like that, you're just like, God, this guy's so good. And we have exactly 88 viewers right now, his jersey number. He is a fun player to watch. He is a very good player to watch. But I'm telling you, we have a speeding problem in this country. We really do. Okay. I think in particular, we have a speeding problem in athletics. Okay. A big one. And we can get into a deeper debate about that as well. But a lot of you are here to talk about LSU football. And we'll do just that. All right. We kicked Tyron Mathieu off for weed. Okay. I'm very passionate about this topic, as many of you know. I've dedicated quite a bit of my own, you know, money to building, a Tyron Mathieu sports car collection. So, I'm going to be very defensive of Tyron for this. Um, there was a lot surrounding that topic. I won't get too deep into it now, but you're right. Especially looking back in time. But there's more to it than just that. I think if you listen to Tyron interviews, he will tell you that a lot of that was a good thing for him to grow as a person. So that's obviously really good. But yeah, I'm happy Tyron came out on top, and like we all expected, one of the best football players to ever play the game. Uh, let's go to Jay Forbes here. Is this Joshua Forbes? Because I love this comment. I would definitely do that. I would put it up. You want to know where I'd put it? I would put it in the offensive line meeting room. I really would. And say, this cannot happen again. Now, it was Garrett Dellinger who was assigned Jalen Carter on that play. And that's a matchup we're just not going to win. But, it's it is what it is, right? He's on his burner account tonight. I like it. Fitzpatrick. It's amazing. I talk about Ricky Collins some on this channel, and Fitzpatrick is back. There you go. This is true. I actually do believe this. I do. And yeah, I it might come off as biased LSU person, but the thing about the Alabama situation is that it did happen. It did happen during their season, where the Georgia situation has happened after their season. So it is a little bit different, because I don't know how the NCAA would handle what has happened with Georgia. What I will say, though, Fitzpatrick, to this is, and I feel like if I was in Brian Kelly's inner circle, and to my knowledge, there are people that have watched my channel in the past that know people. Okay, so I would immediately share this message to the team if I was Brian Kelly. Okay, I would. I would. All right. I would tell Brian Kelly, especially with everything's going on in the world, I would tell my team to slow down. If I haven't done so already, because I really do think there are issues with speeding in college athletics. It was very prevalent when I played. I know some of the players on this team. Okay. I've not been told about, any LSU player speeding up to this point. But I've heard of other college athletes, and all these athletes are friends. They know each other. Okay. Speeding can kill you. The one thing I think the NBA, I know it's a little bit of a different topic. One thing I think the NBA has not done a good job of is sharing the story of Terrence Clark. Now, if you're not familiar with the story, okay, this was a young man who was getting ready to get selected in the NBA draft. So we're talking about, once again, the top 1% of the top 1% of the best athletes on the planet. So he is in the stratosphere, the Brandon Millers and the Jalen Carters. So a few weeks before the draft happened, he died in a single vehicle automobile accident, and he was going over 80 in a 40 mile per hour zone, ran a red light, got clipped, and he got in a single vehicle accident. Okay, so I got to be honest. I felt really bad for the young man, but I also would have said, look, speeding is something that kills you, right? Terrence Clark was weeks away from living the dream that he worked his entire life. to accomplish. Los Angeles people drive crazy. For the week of the Super Bowl, I was fearing for my life in some of these Uber rides. Okay. So I'm going to be honest with you. This stuff is scary. It is very freaking scary. All right. Um, and there's a lot of these 80s and a 40s. Okay. Nolan Smith, the Georgia pass rusher, 80 and a 40. He went 89 and a 40 in a construction zone. Jalen Carter. And if you actually go, and I actually did look at the accident with the Terrence Clark situation, it didn't look too bad, but he died. When you drive that fast, especially in residential areas, Henry Ruggs, I see what you put, Jordan. It can either kill you or it can kill somebody else. Okay. Now, Uncle Who Dat, we'll get to that question in a second. Good to see you. Ed, good to see you, my brother. 2024 running back commitments or targets. Okay, so I see you meant 2025, which is very interesting because, Ed, I know you love you some high school football in the New Orleans area. And, of course, the dude in the class of 2025 seems to be Harlem Berry. Okay, so he is currently a 5-star. I've watched a decent amount of him, and he looks to be like, and he does wear number 25, and it is class of 2025. And this player also wore number 25. He looks like LaShawn McCoy. He looks exactly like him. They run the exact same way, too. They're both lighter guys, but Harlem Berry is a lot of fun. He is a lot of fun. I know some people compared him to Reggie Bush, and, that's a lot. But I think he is LaShawn McCoy reincarnated. He is a lot of fun to watch. Now, here's really good. All right. If you believe, whoever you are watching this right now, if you're a believer in Trey Holly and if you're a believer in Caleb Jackson, the 2024 crop is not going to be as important as the 2025 crop. I tend to believe in both of those young men. So 2025 is going to be a big running back class for LSU. Obviously, I'm a believer in getting a running back every single class. So 2024's, we'll see what they do and decide to do at running back there. But for 2025, I'm telling you, Harlem Berry looks like he is a real deal. The only issue is he is not the biggest guy. He is 175. And he's going to get bigger. He's only a high school junior. So there'll be some natural weight gained there. But I'm a true believer in the SEC. Your weight matters. The data just backs that up. And you've got to get some meat on your bones. I think if you go outside the SEC and you're under 200, you have a higher rate of success. And once again, if you actually go look at the running backs, I'm telling you, go look this up. I've done it. We did a whole week devoted to this one statistic on this channel. You will see that there is a higher rate of success when running backs are over 200 in the SEC compared to below when they're getting in. But if you're 195 and below, your success rate goes up when you're not in the SEC. Now, am I saying here that the SEC is way better at football than the Big Ten or the Pac-12 or whatever? Yes and no. I mean, the Big 12, Pac-10, they've got great athletes. There's a lot of them that make it to the NFL. But in the SEC, everybody's big, everybody's fast, everybody's strong. So there you go. Here's Bruce. He actually looks at the recruiting stuff every single day. I know this just because I follow Bruce, and he and I have been, linking up on this channel for quite some time. Bruce believes LSU needs to grab a safety and running back out of the portal if a good one pops in after the spring. Then add safeties and injuries grades at running back. Agreed. At more so safety than at running back. I'm not in love with LSU's safety room right now. I think it's fine. But I do agree that it needs to be a little bit deeper. It depends on how you feel about Kylan Jackson. I think Kylan's tape is really good. I do. I think how these defensive backs actually, graded out for me, um, is, and I've not finished Kylan's senior tape. I went through some of the early enrollees before I got to his final, year here. I think Kylan's really good, though. I really do. I think he's one of the better players in Louisiana this cycle. So yes, I think for me, how I rated the DBs, I do think Toviano and Kylan Jackson were the two best that they brought in. And I do think there is a little bit of a drop off. And then you get into Stamps, Hughes, and Yates for guys that are coming in straight out of high school. Now, I do think the DBs in the transfer portal are really good football players. I'm not shying away from Denver Harris. You could show me clips of him getting burned every day in practice. I'm just not shying away of my opinion from him. I think he's really good. I think he'll be in the NFL draft one day. I do. Now, I know a lot of you are going to fill my DMs with, well, what about his attitude? He comes over from Texas A&M. We got the Tokyo Drift video. At this point, you do worry about those things. Is he focused in on football? Is he ready to go? He goes from a losing culture at A&M to a winning culture here at LSU. We'll see. Those are only questions that he can answer. But I'm telling you, when he's locked in and the chin straps are tight and buckled and ready to go, he's really good. He is really, really good. Now, is he special? I don't know. I don't feel that way when I watch him. But I feel he is really good. And I think in order to become a special corner, everything's got to be buttoned up. So, if everything is buttoned up, Denver Harris is going to be a really good football player for us. I'm telling you, he has got some real ability. Let's go to Jackson Super Chat here, who sent me a very troubling message earlier today that Newcastle has moved ahead of Liverpool for 5th in the table. Liverpool, we beat Man United 7-0, and then we can't even score on Bournemouth? Bournemouth? Really? Bournemouth? Does anybody here even know what Bournemouth is? I don't. And we got 1-0 and outplayed by Bournemouth. God. Bournemouth. Nurse Corey, good to see you. Tank Miner will make sure Denver Harris stays in line. Derek, what's good? Jalen Coleman. Okay, we're getting some deep cuts in here. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Do you guys even know what sport we are talking about here? But anyway. Nurse Cord. Oh, man, I know this has a curse word in it. Not a curse word, but I could get demonetized for this. Speaking a whole peach emoji language right now to me. I love it. Miles Brennan's in here. Nurse Court is a Liverpool fan. I like it. Biggest 2023. I lost 12 viewers, by the way, by doing that. Biggest 2023 question for me is if the defense can generate pressure, when teams dedicate resources to take Harold Perkins out of the equation. We need to have a legit plan B outside of Mason Smith. Interesting. Well, if someone knows a thing or two about plan B, it's me. I'm kidding. That was a bad joke. Still, you are right. Plan B. All right. Well, you need something outside of Mason Smith. Okay. I agree. Look, biggest 2023 question is if the defense can generate pressure and when teams dedicate resources to take Harold Perkins out of the equation. Very good. So, obviously, Harold Perkins is going to get doubled a lot more next year in clear pass rushing situations. Okay. A few things about Harold Perkins is, number one, he is truly special. And he just put together one of the best single seasons we've ever seen from any true freshman ever on the defensive side in college football. Definitely the best true freshman defensive season since maybe Grant Delpit, maybe Derek Stingley in 2019. I think a lot of you would say Sting. I could argue Delpit, tomato. Still, Perk was dominant, and he single-handedly won us Arkansas game. And you're right. How do we dedicate resources to our pass rush? Number one, Jackson, overall, what people need to understand, and Jackson Howard's video is part of our thumbnail here. So, number one, I think one of the true freshmen is going to add something to LSU's pass rush. Now, is that Jackson Howard? Is that Deshaun Womack? We don't know. We honestly don't. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it is. Maybe it's Whit Weeks. Who knows? As a blitzing linebacker. I think the bigger question for me, Jackson, is yes, with BJ Ojolari out there, we were able to generate a lot of pressure just with our front, right? The Ole Miss game, Harold Perkins took over. So they're going to be better served. There's going to be some plays where Harold Perkins gets doubled and it not matter. I thought Savion Jones came along as a bull rusher towards the end of the season. But two things come to mind when I get this question, Jackson. And one is a really good thing, and one is a potential really bad thing. The first thing that is a good thing is the SEC quarterbacks this year just are not going to be as good as the quarterbacks last year. I have a tough time believing that with all the great quarterbacks that left. The only team in the SEC that that we play next year that has a quarterback that scares the bejesus out of me is Arkansas. That's it. All the other ones on our schedule and on the SEC schedule, obviously, Florida State with Jordan Travis, he's a really special player. But I think outside of those two, everybody else on our schedule has a little bit of a quarterback situation on their hands. And I'm fine with that. That's obviously really good. Now, the bad thing is teams do now have a year of film on, to me, the best defensive coordinator we've had since Dave Aranda, and that was Matt House. Matt went out there, and Matt quite honestly won us a few games, right? I think low-key Matt House was the main reason we beat Mississippi State. That was, I felt, the game where he was truly, truly special. And he did a lot of very creative things, especially with Ojolari and Perk in that game that won us that game. He overloaded, I could get into it. It's not great during a live stream, but we did a full film breakdown of every play from the Mississippi State game. If you want to see what those plays look like, make sure you go check that out. But yeah, I mean, Matt was amazing. He really, really, really was. It's going to be hard to be that great again with that much film of your defense out there, right? So yeah, I think that's going to be very interesting. So he generated a lot of pressure with the looks. But I would also say there was a fair amount of pressure we got just from our front four. And I think our pass rush is going to still be fine next year. I really do. Because I just don't believe that any team of the SEC is going to be able to block us consistently. I really don't think so. And so I still feel that same way about Alabama's offensive line. I don't know if they're going to be able to solve their issues from last year. And we really took it to them last year up front. Coy Moore, our second. I'll never forget the Coy Moore trash talk. It was a thing of beauty. 137 of you in here. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget, we are doing an NCAA bracket challenge. Let's see how many people have signed up here. we so far only have one other sign up. There you go. So, yeah, Sherry is the most popular person on the channel. Does not shock me. Now, I do feel bad for Sherry because she is married to an Alabama fan, and I know that is insufferable because y'all are. If he's watching right now, it is unfair that Alabama has fielded the best SEC basketball team since Devin Booker's Kentucky Wildcats, which is kind of scary. But I just think that's unfair. The sports gods can be cruel. But I feel like giving out something pretty big. So once again, we're giving this away for the bracket challenge as one of our giveaways right here. DJ Chark autograph card. Okay? But if you're a member of the Patreon, okay? If you are a member of the Patreon, I don't do this as often. All right? Now, here's the catch. You've got to be signed up for Patreon. Okay? I am going to give away one of these bad boys. Okay? I just feel it in my heart to do this. A Jamar Chase 1/1 prismatic blue. This will go to a patron who scores the highest score in the bracket challenge. Now, ironically, Sherry is one of our PHL patron winners. I don't remember what I sent you, Sherry, but it was a card that I really liked. This is probably the best card we're giving away. So we're going to give this out. Jamar Chase 1/1. Okay? So, he is unsufferable. Okay. Now, we're getting a ton of questions getting in here. Once again, if you super chat, we'll go straight to it. Whichever topic, I'll talk about Coy Moore. Heck, I don't care. Caleb Jackson breakout or not many carries? I have a really high grade on Caleb Jackson. Now, there are some things that worry me. Obviously, he's coming off an injury. I am interested to look at the data of LSU players that had an injury their senior season of high school. Okay, you always worry about that, right? But yeah, does he break out? I don't know. Sherry won the Joe Burrow card, so I gave away Joe Burrow to her. I don't remember which one it was, but I remember it being one that I liked a lot. Crap, which Joe Burrow was it? Send me a photo, Sherry, in the Discord. And God, I don't give out my Burrow stuff too often. Brand's with the super chat. Appreciate it. He said his question is in the chat. Okay, let's see. There you are. Who do you think is the second best tight end on the roster? Pimpton. Only backups we have that are relevant are all freshmen, and Kelly will want to run with multiple tight ends. Bruce, we'll get to that question in a second. I have a few thoughts on that. Who do I think is the second best tight end on the roster? Okay, so it's important to understand that different tight ends are good at different things. Okay, so there's not many Georgia tight ends that are out there. What they had last year was just unfair. And, Brock Bowers is probably the best player in the sport. And Darnell Washington is probably my number one SEC player, period, offensively in the draft. I really like him. I think he's going to be a great player in the NFL. I really do. So, yeah, there's just not many people that can run and block as good as both of those guys were at running and blocking. So, yeah, I think Pimpton is the best. He's definitely, my favorite of the ones that they brought in. But there are some things that I like about the other two compared to Pimpton. The first is obviously they're early enrolled and they're getting reps right now. And they're getting extra reps because Mason Taylor is out. Okay. But Mac Markway is probably going to be the one that plays the most just because of their style of play. Right. Jackson McGohan and Kamarion Pimpton were more receivers than they were blockers in high school. Okay. And in a lot of what LSU does, the blocking aspect of being a tight end is as important as the passing aspect in many ways, right? Because LSU runs a play, and there's an entire podcast network, ironically, after this play name called Split Zone, where the tight end cuts across the line of scrimmage and kicks out the backside player. Okay. And ironically, LSU did a lot of wham blocking with the previous regime. And ironically, Eric Gilbert got better as a blocker, his true freshman season, right? So, blocking, it does take a while to get used to, especially if you didn't do it a whole lot. And Mason obviously was a really good player for us last year. And he's going to be again this year. He gives you a really high floor. And obviously he's a legend already because of the Alabama game. But we'll see if he actually turns into a legendary player or if he is just another guy with a legendary moment. I think he is well on his way to being a Richard Dixon type of player for us, which is good. Okay, so Pimpton is really good. I really like him a lot. I think he was my favorite in watching all three of them, but Jackson McGohan is as good of a catcher when it comes to just the aspect of catching the football. He's definitely one of the better recruits ever that LSU got when it comes to simply making big time catches. But there's more to obviously being a tight end than just that. I do believe there will be instances during the spring that Jackson McGohan makes some of these highlight reel types of catches, and his hype cycle is going to go through the roof. I think there's going to be a little bit of a curve for him this year. Obviously, as you become a better blocker and, he's from up north and, you're going to play against way better athletes than he faced, in high school, and everybody plays way better athletes than they did in high school. But still, I like all three of these guys. I do. But I think Pimpton is number one, the best athlete with, just the raw athleticism he brings, the raw length. He's got a little bit of Darnell Washington to him because of his athleticism, and he's fun to watch. He is very, very, very fun to watch. So, as far as the multiple tight end sets, right, I think LSU is going to want to do it. And part of it is because the personnel has become a little bit more even. Because last year, LSU's wide receiver room was so much deeper than their tight end room with all the proven commodities that they had. So with all the talent that they had at wide receiver, it didn't make a lot of sense to run 12 personnel with only one proven tight end. But now the wide receiver room isn't nearly as deep, and you have a plethora of really talented, capable tight ends. And I do think if things come together for Pimpton, there are instances where these athletic freaks from high school get to the Division I college level, and in high school they were just able to out physical everyone, and you didn't have to really be violent, right? With a guy like Pimpton, who was so much longer, so much bigger, so much faster than everybody he played, and I know Texas high school football is really, really, really good. Is he going to be ready to play violently? And if he is going to be a very good football player at LSU. And that's a case for basically everybody, right? The violence aspect of the game of football is a curve, right? And there are a lot of LSU athletic freaks that when they get to the college level, they don't want to be violent. Does an emphasis on tight ends, and thank you, John Sibley Butler. You and I had a great phone conversation earlier this week, and I'm looking forward to having many, many more. And John Sibley Butler is also a patron. Does an emphasis on tight ends and offensive linemen mean that LSU is projecting a run strategy better than a Burrow strategy? Okay, it's a very good question. I love a good Spider 2 Y banana reference. Dave, good to see you. Everybody, welcome Dave Rodriguez to the channel. Look at Dave. He's out there running routes, looking like Darren Waller right there. Everybody, welcome Dave to the channel. Okay. Before I answer John Sibley Butler's super chat, we see Mike Jordan in here. We see a lot of OGs. Cole's in here. It's good to see you. Sherry, we shouted you out. The Master Blaster's chilling. We got a great Sunday night live stream going. Max K, you've been hiding on me for quite a bit. It's much easier to run out of 12 personnel as well. Okay. So let's have a conversation about tight ends and offensive linemen. Okay. Rather than a Burrow strategy. Okay. So what have we learned about 2019 LSU and Joe Burrow just in general? Those guys made a lot of plays, right? Individually, those guys made a lot of plays. And I don't think, you could really rely on that, right? Because those guys did a lot of superhuman stuff. And, that's that. So I don't think John Sibley's super chat here is saying, hey, let's go get another Joe Burrow, because you simply can't do that. I think what he is referencing here is exactly what Georgia has done. And what has happened in the football landscape is everybody that you play has become faster and lighter. Okay. A good example of this is Florida State. Florida State used to be known for thickness. I mean, they used to have some bruisers. And now their defense is lighter. Our defense is lighter. Go look at the defensive linemen we used to have, right? Our ends used to be as thick as our defensive tackles. Think Tyson Jackson, Kirsten Pittman, Edwards on that defensive line. Marcus Spears was an end. Those guys were thick, right? It's a different sport. Speed trumps all, right? So what I think is going to be key is getting tight ends and offensive linemen that can move people. And the one thing that having 12 personnel and tight ends that can block, one thing that they do for your offense is they can play what I like to call a 2-for-1. You have someone out there that can catch, but also someone out there that can block, right? And the one thing LSU did a good job of, okay, was when they ran the football effectively, they did so when they had what I like to call a numbers advantage, right? So I think a great tape to look at where LSU did this to perfection was the Ole Miss game, right? We outnumbered them quite a bit in the box, and we were able to just run the football at will, right? With a lot of zone reads, a lot of that was Mason Taylor's, ironically, his best game, outside of Alabama. But honestly, from start to finish, that was his best game as a collegiate player. And he was moving people. Will Campbell was moving people. We were by far the more physical team. And I think that's where Brian Kelly wants to take this team. Mason Lunsford kind of fits that mold. He mauls people. The transfer they're bringing in from Maryland. He can. He's not the most polished. He's not the best. But I'm telling you, if there's one thing he can do, he can get you off your spot. And there's not many people that can do that, right? Now, 2019 offensive line, they can move people too. Damian Lewis could be one of the best run blockers in LSU history. Go look at the Texas A&M tape. He got people on their rear ends. The Arkansas A&M back-to-back from him was one of the funnest tapes you're going to watch. But that offensive line played in a lot of 5-wide sets, okay? So quickness was so big for them as well. So, yeah, I think LSU wants to become better in the run game. I think there were times last year where the middle of the offensive line in particular got moved around a little bit. So I think that's why LSU's been very aggressive in the portal this offseason, okay? 12 gets defenses into base personnel and opens up throwing lanes, which also gets the running game going late in the game. Exactly. So I know I don't have visuals here, but what Max is saying is this, is when you get into 12 personnel and you put an extra tight end into the game, that forces defenses to play a more traditional 4-3 alignment where you got to take a nickel defensive back off the field and put a linebacker into the game. And if you do that, that means that is one less defensive back in favor of a linebacker, and that means more favorable matchups for guys on the outside. One team that really adjusted to this very well this last year, and I know it helps having Patrick Mahomes, but once the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs did a lot of 12 and even 13 personnels, and they just outnumbered defensive alignments, right? They did a lot of 4-by-1 alignments where they had 3 receivers and a running back to one side and only a lone receiver to the left. And they would outnumber coverages on that side of the field. All right. So, yeah, I think college football and football in general is very much just math, right? Like, what I mean by numbers, it's just how defenses align to your offensive alignment. One thing that I think is very critical, all right, is I do think, and to add to this, to John Sibley's really good super chat, he mentioned Burrow, right? Burrow could run. Burrow was a very good runner at LSU. And if there is something that, and it's ironic, I got this painting in the background that was gifted to me by a friend of the channel, Jamar Simeon. The funniest thing about Joe Burrow is no one ever talks about his running ability. If you go look at the biggest games that we played, all right, the closest games that we played, Florida was his highest rushing game. The Alabama game, the biggest difference was Joe Burrow's running ability and his inability to run. Clemson, Joe Burrow's running ability won us the game. Auburn, Joe Burrow's running ability arguably won us that game too. Mobility at the quarterback position changes so much. And the one thing, and I'm a huge Garrett Nussmeier guy, okay? Spoke to a source close to the Nussmeier camp. I feel pretty good that, this procedure that just happened is very minor. Won't go into any more details than just that. So, yeah, I'm going to be honest here. Garrett gives the offense a verticality that was sorely missed last year in big spots. But what Jaden does with the zone read stuff and Jaden's overall ability to read a game, yes, he doesn't pull the trigger enough for me. And I think he's going to need to next year. But I'm telling you, he makes defenses really shiver their timbers because of his running ability. And as a play caller, if you can get numbers in your favor, you are going to dismantle a lot of teams. Okay? Perfect example. LSU's going up against the best defensive coach college football's ever seen in Nick Saban. Okay? Go look at the touchdown that he ran in overtime versus Alabama. It's one of the most well-coached defenses on the planet. Okay? Go look at the first play that he ran in. Yes, a lot of the credit should go to Brian Thomas Jr., Mason Taylor, and Josh Williams, who executed wonderful blocks. But the play design was tremendous. Okay. To get Jaden on the outside, we had him essentially running into open space. It's hell for a defense. If you're playing against this team for a full 4 quarters and then you got to chase this guy down in overtime, it's amazing what he can do. And if we can run 12, kind of like the way Georgia did with Stetson Bennett. Did you guys see Stetson Bennett's 40 time? It was pretty freaking good. I mean, 4.6 is insane for that guy. I mean, he's holding up the file for AARP. Kidding. Hope you guys found that funny. But still, I did. Stetson had the fastest, I think, 20-yard shuttle. I think he was quick as hell. Quick as hell. He can run, right? Now, I'm not saying the statue. I'm not saying this is a statue at all. But, man, it is crazy what the quarterback's ability to run could do for your team. Okay? And I would be interested to see Nuss, getting more running reps next year if he actually does get to play next year. So, it's going to be very interesting. I wish we had a game before the Florida State game, to get a tune-up, if you will, but still. They're going to see packages for Nuss like we saw in the bowl game. What's up, Doug? Good to see you. What do you say, Kai? Don't forget, if you're just not tuning in, if you are a patron and you are in our bracket challenge, this is your chance to win one of my Jamar Chase 1-of-1 cards. Look at that. That prism finish. But Stetson was an athlete, man. Yeah, I think Nuss plays quite a bit next year, right? Now, does he play versus Florida State? I don't know. I think, especially with how well Jaden played in that Florida State game last year for us, so it's going to take a lot to get him off the field. And I think Jaden's going to be, in particular, really amped up to get revenge in that game because we weren't we weren't ready for that game. Brian wasn't ready. Our roster wasn't, properly set yet. And I mean, that was the only game that I thought BK was just, I mean, even outside the 2-point conversion thing, we were just not ready to play. And that happens with teams with a new coaching staff. So I think we're going to be so much more zoned in, ready to go. I know the game's in Orlando, but we just played there. He did. I mean, Staquavius. He also had, the second fastest throw MPH? But you do worry about the conduct away from the field, right? He kind of Baker Mayfield himself in Dallas. That's and I don't know. You do worry about those character concerns with that. Does he feel like he's peaked? Okay. Do you feel like he's peaked? Now, once again, if you're just not tuning in, PHL Idol will be in May. All right. We have confirmed a country music artist that has sold out venues around the country. He's currently on tour. He's already confirmed that he will be one of our many judges on PHL Idol. Super excited about that. That'll be in May. I pushed it back because I feel like if we can get someone of this stature, we can. All right. Oh, God. You have nothing else better to do on a Sunday night with your mama jokes. Good to see you. Beautiful soul. Captain Dove, good to see you. Yeah, the sacks were an issue. I think some of the sacks were good sacks. But, yeah, I mean, The thing that I would be worried about, Max, is freaking Will Levis. There's going to be a team that picks him in the first round, and they're going to say, wow, this guy set an SEC record for sacks? Really? If JD5, yeah, I agree with this. There were some misses that I was like, okay, you got to make that throw. There were other misses that people would point at and be like, well, I don't think that was part of the progression. But yeah, and hopefully those things do get better. They do. Oh, we got a hot take coming in. What's the difference between Stetson publicly being drunk and Tom Brady throwing the Lombardi from boat to boat? There's a huge difference there, right? I guess I just need to go reread the Stetson Bennett details. Let me read. Let me. This is a hot take. Well, for one, Brady didn't get arrested. What were the details? Oh, come on. All right. This is what I thought. Okay, both are public intoxication, but we could debate this on your show tomorrow. Was Tom Brady banging on doors? Okay. This is via Mark Schlabach. All right. Met Mark before. Really good journalist. In a statement, Dallas Police Department said Stetson Bennett was banging on doors at 7:10 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. Tom Brady threw a Lombardi. I can't believe I'm defending Tom freaking Brady on my channel. Okay, you're joking. Okay. Tom Brady was very much publicly drunk, but was he banging on doors? Okay. If it's 6 a.m. and somebody's banging on my door, I am freaking out. Okay. Major difference. I think AYS just wanted to troll me on my channel. He's like, let me just think of the most ridiculous take on the planet. I love it. I gotta get a big crazy hot take for a show tomorrow night. By the way, I'm on AYS every Monday, 7:30. By the way, just joining us, giving away. You got to be a member of the PHL Patreon to win this Jamar Chase 1-of-1 card for our bracket challenge. Sherry Berry won my Joe Burrow card last time, giving away a pretty nice Jamar Chase. So there you go. Also going to give away a DJ Chark autograph. Pretty excited about that. Which one? The one on the Malik Jet sweep? Which one? I put on Thomas drinking White Claw. Bad. Nothing wrong with the White Claw. I'm not a claw guy. I'm not a claw guy though. I just think I'm fruity drink everything. I'm not a big seltzer guy. I'm ready for a seltzer to come sponsor PHL. Then I'll be a seltzer guy. So yeah, pretty excited about that. Let me see if there's anything else. me see if there's anything else that I need to, as far as the, I'm trying to think if there's anything else from the Brady thing. Yeah, you just do the Lombardi from one boat to the other. Probably not that. I do remember the founder, or the granddaughter, I believe, of the founder of the Lombardi Trophy was offended that Tom Brady treated the trophy that way. All right. Exactly. Jump on the DJ Chark hype train. I'm a big Chark collector. This one is a sealed card that has never been unsealed. So I've never even touched this card. Sign up for the PHL bracket challenge. Brandon Hillman. Number one, Brandon with a Y is ridiculous. Okay. So we have like the normal Brandon. All right. Then we also have Brandon Cooks with an I. But Brandon Hillman with a Y? That is asinine. So he is technically listed as an athlete for Notre Dame. He signs the NLI. Notre Dame agrees to free him of the NLI. And I do believe most people see him as a defensive player, a DB. So yeah, I don't know where to go with this one, but LSU does need some DB help. Marcus Freeman is a silly goose. Man, he's talked some ish lately. I want Marcus to do well. I do. But I mean, gotta be honest, man. I think the wheels are about to fall off there. I really do. I've always felt this way about Notre Dame. Okay. I'm not one of these guys to do 1,000 victory laps around Notre Dame, but I went a little crazy when they lost to Marshall. And I admitted to that, right? Because if you are going to talk ish, back it up. And now he made the statement a few weeks ago about, well, we wouldn't have recruited this kid or whatever, whatever the quote was. We used to not recruit this kind of kid or whatever. I thought that was asinine as well. What I don't get is, I don't know why somebody would victory lap Brian Kelly. Well, number one, you've not done anything yourself. Great. You beat South Carolina in a bowl game when their players, a lot of their players opted out. So what? Cool deal. But Brian Kelly is the reason why you had the job. And this is the funniest thing about Notre Dame fans, that they won't just recognize that Marcus Freeman got the head coaching job because of Brian Kelly. Tommy Rees got his offensive coordinator start because of one person, Brian Kelly. Now, Marcus Freeman would have eventually been a head coach somewhere, but he wouldn't have been the head coach at Notre Dame if Marcus Freeman wasn't hired by Brian Kelly the year before. Okay? So, you know, I thought it was kind of strange, right? It wasn't some visceral shot at BK or whatever. But man, I don't know. I don't know. Just reading the tea leaves here with Notre Dame, you had the offensive coordinator thing happen. Okay. Andy Ludwig at Utah decides to stay at Utah, but you didn't want to pay the buyout. And now you have to hire somebody from within. Okay. So this is the second consecutive offensive coordinator hire you've made from within. Then, okay, you had two recruiting 5-star flips, both on the defensive side of the football. And they didn't go to your school. Peyton Bowen went to Oklahoma, and then Keon Keeley is a little bit of an earlier flip, goes to Alabama. I just don't think anybody at Notre Dame believes Marcus Freeman is going to actually get the job done. I think they're just saying it just to lie to themselves. I truly don't believe that they believe in him. I don't know why that is, but I think Notre Dame fans know their limitations, but they don't want to admit it. They just don't, for whatever reason. But I'll leave it at that because this is an LSU channel. Okay. And we used to have quite a few Notre Dame fans that hung around. I haven't seen some of them in a while. I think some of you remember. I think one of their names was like B. Crowdis or something like that. I don't know. Buster, good to see you. One of our many patrons. I did not think this is where the 2A conversation would come in. I thought that would have come in a little bit earlier. I hate Notre Dame and USC as much as I do Bama. Why USC? I mean, I have noticed that there are quite a few LSU fans that hate USC. I have no idea why. No idea. Okay, there's like very few things that you can point to. Okay, and that's fine. Skipper, you can hate whoever you want. You know I love you. But USC, all right, there's only two things that you could be really mad at USC at. Okay, 2003. Okay, so I think that's what Skipper is referencing. Good to see you, Hal. I know. Let me ask you this, Hal. You watch more basketball than me. Sherry, you do as well. Do you feel the women's 3 seed was justified? But the 03 share, I get it. But we never actually played. So, I mean, it is what it is. All right. The 03 share. And then the other one, now this is old school. But there's a lot of LSU fans sour over the Joe McKnight situation. Okay. The Joe McKnight situation, that recruitment was fun. And I know he ended up picking USC. Worked out for him, made the NFL. Obviously, tragic what happened to Joe. But Joe was a story. He was special coming out of high school. He went to USC. But yeah, I think most of you are mad about the 03. So Skipper, I'm fine with that. I think because we didn't have the chance to play that game, and I think some LSU fans are really defensive of it because that was our first title of the modern era. So yeah, but nobody recognizes 03. I did a really good podcast with, who did I do it with? Matt Zimick, one of the most underrated college football minds. And he had me on to debate 03 USC versus 03 LSU. And USC was great. They had Mike Williams, all those guys, right? And Mike Williams was a movement, right? He wasn't Peter Warrick level good, but he was good. I still think 03 LSU beats them, though. I know. What a surprise. Hot take here, though. All right. 2007 LSU is my favorite team. It is my favorite team. Part of the craziest season in college football history. Okay. I will say this. I am very ecstatic that we did not have to play Georgia in the SEC championship game, because that Georgia team was stacked. That team was stacked. They were good, right? And they played in that Sugar Bowl that year versus Hawaii. My dad and I went to that game, and they were good. And we would have to play them in Georgia with our backup quarterback, who was Ryan Perlew, right? Like one of the best backups you could have. But, I'll say it all day, every day. LSU 03, LSU would have beaten 03 USC. 11, LSU would have beaten 11 Oklahoma State. I don't know if we survive Georgia in Atlanta. I don't know. It would have been epic. It would have been a great matchup. But I think by the end of that season, it was pretty clear that Georgia was the second best team. Okay. Now, I will say this. How does ask about the McNeese news? Okay. I won't spend too much time on the Will Wade thing, but if somebody super chats, we'll keep going on the Will Wade story today. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Should LSU have kept Will Wade? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Should LSU have kept Will Wade? Okay? Because I knew this question was coming from DA. I think DA is new to the channel. All right. Now, I won't say who, but I know one of you have a relationship with Will Wade, a friendship. So I understand that this is personal. Some of you know Will Wade, right? And I know some higher ups at LSU watch our channel. That's great. That's cool. Okay. But I always try to be as objective as I can with everything that I do. All right. AP, hit me up. PowerHourLSU@gmail. There you go. Okay. Now, I will, just John Sibley works in athletics, so I do, for stuff like administrative stuff like this, he understands the ins and outs and, some of the politics that gets involved with the firing of coaches and board of regents and all of that, right? Or supervisor board, whatever terms you want to use. Okay. So whenever you fire someone major, someone who's making a 7-figure salary, someone who, if they are fired, 10 to 15 other people's jobs and livelihoods are drastically changed. So, I know John Sibley is very familiar with the hiring and firing process. So he says no. Forbes says yes. Hal says yes. Tony says yes. Buster says yes. Don says HE double hockey sticks. No. Joshua says unapologetically yes. No. Okay. Thank you so much, AP. I'm looking forward to your email, my friend. If LSU kept Wade, NCAA would have taken down the football program. Carter, the answer is yes. However, I will tell you this: Will fired himself when they redid his contract. That was the end of it for Will. Okay. Now, again, I know my take on this is going to be on a very sensitive subject because a lot of you were general Will Wade fans. Okay. So Buster says, what did he do that was bad? And once again, I say this as someone with a LSU football channel. LSU basketball is not my expertise. Hal is a season ticket holder. He goes to every single game. So his opinion obviously is a little bit more valid than all of ours, right? And most of you watch all the games. I'd say I'd probably watch 5 to 10 LSU basketball games. I will say this from a basketball perspective. We were really bad. And I understand Matt McMahon, you should never judge a coach after his first year, but we should not have been that bad. We should not have been that bad at all. Never. Never in a million years should we have been that bad. Okay. So take that for what it's worth. I know it was year one, but there was basic basketball things that should not have been as bad on this team as they were on this team, right? I thought there was some talent to be worked with there, but I give Matt a pass. This was a really rough year, and it's a leap of faith to take this job. All right, and obviously you jump at it if you're the coach at Murray State, right? So from a basketball perspective, obviously we stunk without him. You saw what our NCAA tournament teams look like without him. For 2 different tournament runs, we were garbage without him. Absolutely garbage. So we saw it this past week with Kansas. They didn't have Bill Self. Texas ran him out of the gym. So, there's some teams that have an interim coach, and, Chris Beard and Texas's coach, I forget his name. He looks like Gus Fring and Gus Johnson, ironically. He's obviously a really good coach. So some people with interim coaches, there's not much of a drop-off. With Will Wade, it was a massive drop-off. Now, was Will Wade a great X's and O's coach? I think people that know the game of basketball more than me would say no. That wasn't his strongest attribute. But there's more to it than just that. It is, amazing how many great coaches out there aren't great X's and O's guys, okay? In whichever field. There's more to coaching than just drawing up plays, as many of you know. As far as like the wiretap and what actually was accused, okay? I don't believe Scott Woodward could have proceeded with Will Wade. I just don't. Like, I think when some of these, all of it just kind of just began to snowball and look bad, where, his wife's name are on some of these payments, and you had the shady wiretap and all this BS. It's not a good look. It's just not. We can get into a debate of why hasn't any of this stuff happened to Kansas, and what are the ethics of what happened to Arizona and Sean Miller. I am not Aaron Torres. I'm not Jeff Goodman. I'm not one of these college basketball insiders that know these stories inside and out. But I think LSU made the right decision. I do. And I liked Will. He won LSU a lot of games. He made us relevant again. We had some bad years after, Brady. I mean, we just did. And I know Johnny Jones has had success, obviously, at other programs. I think he's back in the tournament this year. But, Will answered a lot of questions, and our teams played really hard for him. So, yeah, I hate how it ended. I wish he was still our coach, obviously. But I understood why Scott Woodward did it. I did. And, a lot of it just didn't look good. I get it. Rodney Terry, really good coach. I've really enjoyed watching, and I watch a decent amount of college basketball. If I'm not, I like to decompress and watch some of it late at night. Rodney was really good, and Texas would be idiotic to not keep him. But I'm telling you, here's my last college basketball take. And I know I sound like I'm Mr. Moralist saying that LSU made the right decision, getting rid of Will Wade. And I know this is going to counteract that. I'm not a big morality guy. I think it is silly that teams are not coming after Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino is the best college basketball coach on the planet. There's nobody I'd rather have than him. And I understand there's a lot of baggage that comes with Rick, a lot. And he's not the kindest soul. He's not warm. He's not someone that everybody's going to like, but he can coach. I mean, when it comes to pure coaching talent, nobody's better than that guy. Nobody. Any of them. Nobody's as good as him. He gets the most out of his players, X's and O's. It is amazing how good that guy is. But so he is going to the Johnnies. He's good. Rick is the Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches. But I understand he's not everybody's cup of tea, but he can flat out coach. Okay? He can flat out coach. But I'm telling I understand there is a lot of shady stuff in the past. Okay? The Italian restaurant, all this stuff. But he can coach. That's all there is to it. I will also say this. Good for Will getting another coaching job. And also good for Will saying, I'm not too big for the McNeese job. That shows me hunger. Do you think McNeese was the best job that guy could get? Heavens no. Teams want to freaking win, and they will take chances. They will take freaking chances. F that. Will would have eventually gotten another P5 job or a Mountain West job or something like that. But he wanted to stay in Louisiana. He's got a grudge. I give him credit for believing in himself and doing this, right? But yeah, I've never met Will, but you know, we won games. And that's what I look for. Do you win games? And he won games. Kedrick with the super chat. Really appreciate it, Kedrick. I'm so fired up, y'all. I'm so fired up for PHL Idol. Branson Cat versus Donovan Rillian is going to be crazy good. I'm going through my country music Rolodex right now to get as many judges. I'm telling you, our first one, y'all gonna like him. Y'all gonna like him. He's one of the funniest, fun guys I've ever been around. But we're getting more. Our goal is to get Lainey Wilson on here. Our goal is to get Lainey Wilson. But we got somebody big up to this point. Not Blake Shelton big. He's busy doing his own music show. Okay. But we're going to get there. We're one step at a time. But I know this guy. So that's all that matters. Now, Kedrick Super Chat. How do I want the secondary utilized? And also, who are the starters? So, if you were to ask me today who the starters in the LSU secondary would be next year, Deuce Chestnut on one side and Denver Harris on the other. At safety, Major Burns and Greg Brooks. And at nickel, it would be Sage Ryan. I think if they had to play a game today, that's how they would line up. Okay. Now, is that how it'll actually be all said and done? I don't know. J.K. Johnson athletically gives you something speed-wise, kind of like a Kerry Vincent, if you will. And I think he is going to challenge for some snaps at nickel. Remember, this is a guy who is reuniting with this high school coach who is also his position coach. All right. Now, I do not know who has the final say on who starts where. Okay. There's a lot of debate on how those questions are handled. All right. Should the defensive coordinator have the final say in who starts where? Or should the position coach have the final say on who starts where? Okay. Robert Steeples coaches the nickels and the corners. All right. Kerry Cooks coaches the safeties. Now, I do tend to think most coaches do a collaborative thing. Obviously, Brian Kelly has the final say in who starts everywhere. Okay. He has to sign off on basically everything. And he probably tells Matt, line them up how you want to line them up. So right now, I think if they played a game, it would be Denver Harris, Deuce Chestnut, and your two safeties would be Major Burns and Greg Brooks. And your nickel would be Sage Ryan. Now, how they actually line up is a different story. I do believe there's going to be a strong push for Javian Toviano to play. Okay. Athletically, he looks like a Division I player. Now, what about actually playing corner? Well, I'll tell you this. I did a deep dive on Toviano. If you guys want to check it out, go right on ahead and do it. We'll get back to doing more high school deep dives after spring. If you watch them, you see that they do take a while. So I try and watch full games of these guys in high school, and it's hard to get footage on all of that. And while Toviano played on a really dominant team, Martin High School, and they were really good. And he has a lot of good film. I love their black and silver jerseys. They look really good. They look like the Raiders. Some of those guys look like NFL guys, and he's one of them. He played a lot of running back, and he is a special teams ace. One thing that they did, though, was they had a lot of coverage bust on the back end of their actual high school games. And that's not on Toviano. That's obviously on the coaches, especially at the high school level. You know, you need to simplify some things. But, you know, you would like to give him time to grow as a player to where he feels accustomed being in a secondary where everybody is doing their jobs. Okay. The one thing about LSU secondary last year, no one's going to remember the secondary last year as being just the absolute best secondary in LSU. 2019 secondary was better. 2011 secondary was definitely better. 2010 secondary was better. There's a lot in the modern era that had better secondaries than what we had last year. But the one thing you cannot say about last year's secondary is they did not give away games, right? We made teams earn their points versus us, where in the years prior, more of what actually happened were the play designs by the offensive side of the football and our lack thereof of confusing defensive play designs. One thing Matt did a really good job of for our team last year was not giving games away to oppositions. Now, did we have some mistakes? Yeah, we had some mistakes, but still, we were still able to overcome those few mistakes, right? Obviously, Alabama, we had, a few mixed in there. The Texas route to Jace McClellan was a bust for Major Burns, but he hustled and saved the day. We were able to hold them to a field goal. Obviously, versus Florida, they got a deep shot on us early in the game to start the drive. And there was a few others mixed in there, but there wasn't a whole lot of blatant missed plays. And I'm telling you, especially at the collegiate level, where other teams will bust quite a bit, one of the most important things you can do at the college level is not give away games, right? Make them earn their points. And if we do that, no matter who's out there, we're going to be a better football team next year. Okay? Thoughts on Harold Perkins switching numbers? I like 40. Now, one of my favorite things outside of actually just discussing collegiate football is I just freaking love, and I mean I passionately passionately love jersey numbers. It's something that I always did with my mom, my dad, my uncles. I remember my godfather, Uncle Teton is what I called him, Leighton. He would always quiz me on jersey numbers, and I loved it. I loved it. Right? So I'm a jersey number nerd. Okay. I love it. I love the psychology behind it, especially now as time has moved on. There is a premium on the single digit jersey number. So some of this comes down to ethics. Carvis, we're going to get to the super chat with Sage Ryan in just a second, but I'm going to finish this one really quickly with AP. Good to see you again, Carvis. Okay. People spent a lot of good money buying 40 jerseys. Now they have to buy new ones to support him. Okay. Very good question. Now, let's get into it. The first is number one. Does Harold Perkins have a history wearing the number 4 jersey? He does. Okay. That is the number he wore in high school. Now, what we know is single digit numbers are always the premium numbers. Okay. We had the Justin Jefferson trivia last live stream. He wasn't going to keep number 32. He was switching to number 2. Go look throughout history. Players leave their jersey numbers to get a single digit. It's just how it's always worked. Some players don't. They like their jersey numbers. It's just how it is. All right. It's the aesthetics of it. And I get this. There have been a lot of people that bought Harold Perkins number 40 jerseys, Harold Perkins number 40 memorabilia, photos with number 40. But Harold Perkins should have gotten number 4 last year. But Todd Harris was still on the roster. He was a 6-year senior. He had the number 4 jersey. So they didn't take it from him and give it to Harold Perkins. Okay. That would have saved a lot of people a lot of money and a lot of time. And Harold Perkins very well could be the number 7 next year. But I'm, as you would expect, as I always do, I'm always going to defend Harold Perkins, right? He's one of my favorite players ever at LSU. I mean, I just love this guy. Personality-wise, the grill, the hair, all of it. I just eat it up. I love it. Number 1, players transfer. So understand when you buy anybody's jersey, they could transfer in an instant. I could say this because I know quite a few of you have this. And some of this is because of the appearance he had on my show. I know some of you have number 44 Slade Roy jerseys, but Jack Besh, there's a lot of Jack Besh number 80 jerseys that are out there. How many of you expected him to be gone this year? Not many. So understand when you buy a college uniform, players transfer now. Players change their jersey numbers all the time. And Harold Perkins, who is a 5-star recruit, was always going to be a number 7 candidate anyway. So if you have a Harold Perkins jersey, I would not go buy a number 4 Harold Perkins jersey because he very well could be LSU's number 7, if not next year, potentially this year. Okay. And O'Brien Kelly said he likes his number 7 to be from Louisiana. Harold Perkins is from Louisiana. He played high school football in Houston because he is actually from New Orleans, and he was a Katrina evacuee. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand that it's a tricky subject. It's your hard-earned money. You buy the jerseys. Devin White wore the jersey. I get it. It sucks, but it's a single-digit thing. Players like the single digits. That was the number he wore. And I'm going to tell you this. A lot of people with T. Higgins jerseys are about to be really pissed off. I'm just going to let you know. Now, one thing I will say, though, all right, Harold Perkins, he was number 10 at first, and then he switched to 40. I sympathize with those that spent their money to get a number 40 jersey. I get it. I understand it sucks. But I can't blame a kid wanting to wear his high school jersey number. I just can't, right? So there you go, right? And it was only 1 year he wore 40. 1 year. Okay? Ask yourself, how many elite college football players wear number 40? Not many. Let's go to Carvis, the super chat. We'll get back into cornerback discussion. I'm glad we have bodies at corner now. I really hope Sage pops out this season, but rotating J.K. Zai and Welsh gives us depth. Toviano is a safety. I do believe Toviano is better served at a safety. I agree with you. And I feel like in this situation, it'd be better for LSU to see him at safety, but I do also think corner is the more, just in general, on a grander scale, the tougher resource to replace. I do think LSU, wink, wink, nod, nod, is going to be active and potentially getting a safety out of the portal. Yeah, we haven't talked a whole lot about Zy Alexander either. A very highly touted transfer from the FCS level. Now, how could it be highly touted coming from the FCS? Well, he was 6'3". He had an offer, I believe, from USC. So when you're a 6'3" corner and he's got some one-handed interceptions on tape, there's an aura around him that's a little bit different. So, we haven't talked a whole lot about Zion here. He is a Southeastern Lion as well. Eugene. I've talked with Ja a few times. I'd love to have him on. His son, where did his son end up going to? His son was a 2022 kid. Let me see. Ja Eugene Jr. Oh, he signed with Tulane. Interesting. He's a safety. So here's the thing. All right, Max, I'm calling it now. All right. And I want Max to listen in. All right. Ja Eugene Jr. starts 2 seasons at Tulane, transfers for his 3rd season at LSU, and Harold Perkins will give him the number 4 jersey. Or this could happen next offseason when Harold Perkins gets the number 7. Ja Eugene Jr. has a great true freshman season at Tulane, and he transfers to LSU and he gets the number 4 jersey his dad wore. How cool would that be? There you go. The portal never sleeps, baby. Never sleeps. No one else never sleeps, right? Y'all know who never sleeps. The record will stand. So, Pistol Pete. Branson Cats are a winner. Huh? Let's see. Okay, but who's gonna get the full answer correct here? Who's gonna get the full answer correct? Tony! I'll tell you, Tony wins just far too often. Branson and Tony are our winners tonight. Presley Collection and the PresleyCollection.com. If you're new, guess what? If you're in the market for engagement rings, necklaces, anything jewelry related, Presley Collection is the way to go. Presley Collection, PresleyCollection.com. Hey, Zeus Saves. What's up, man? Jesus loves me, this I know. We had some John Emery discussion happening. Tony said I was letting everybody else win. Look, I'll say this about John Emery. This is the third consecutive offseason where academics are part of the equation here. Now, someone who struggled with academics in college, I get it. School can be hard. Sometimes it feels pointless, especially if you want to be a professional football player, which I'm sure that's what he wants to do with his life. But it's the third straight year that this is happening, and it is frustrating. It is frustrating, but obviously, you do begin to wonder if football is even something that he should be doing, right? And I think that's what Brian Kelly is doing here by allowing him to focus on grades, and then hopefully we get them all ready for the season. Let's go to Zach here with a very fun super chat. How long is Will Wade at McNeese? Okay. Type Y for yes, type in for no. Will Wade is only at McNeese for one season. Type Y for yes, type in for no. Zach, when is the Mint thing? Is it this weekend? If you got a place for me to stay, I might fly out there. I kind of want to go. I just got to have a place to do my show. AP, I'm emailing you back right now. Two to 3 years. Jared, what's up? Balin the Plug. Everybody welcome Balin the Plug. Into March, first weekend in April. Okay. Jack, remind me to take a look at flights. I kind of feel like making this trip. Yeah, and I things have changed, but I knew quite a few of the tutors and academic assistants, people there, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. They work really hard though, and yeah, I did. It's crazy, and it would be one thing if there was like just hundreds of players on the team that struggle with this, but I don't know. I really don't know. So I thought at first you were answering the Will Wade question with this. Zach's own answer to his question was yeah, I give him until the end of March. I love it. That's so funny. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. But I'm a believer John is going to be ready to go. He'll be at McNeese long enough for his LSU job to open back up. So it'll be war number 31. Let's think of as many. Let's start as many 31s as I could think of. Okay, Reggie Miller, Priest Holmes. Who are some other 31s? Jamal Lewis, war number 31. Who are some other 31s? Who's a famous LSU 31? God, I can't. How many other famous 31s? Roy Williams. Oh, which one? I'm curious. Me too. If you don't want to share, that's fine. LaRon wore 30. Roy Williams is good. I guess 31 is kind of a John Sibley Butler number. Oh, here's a good 31. For you LSU people and Chance, I know you know LSU baseball really well. My LSU baseball. Wally Pontiff is 31, right? That's a legendary number for LSU fans. Wally Pontiff, let's see. Before I go look this up, famous number 31s. Cam Lewis. There you go. At the same time. I like that. Not quite famous, but hey, I'll take it. I'll take a Cam Lewis. When you think 30s, you think running backs, right? Most DBs are like 20s or single digits. Here's one of our PHL Idol contestants. So I guess Priest Holmes, Jamal Lewis is all we can come up with. Lots of famous 32s, 33s, 34s. I think. .32s. Franco Harris. Magic Johnson. But why did 31 never get love? There's famous 30s, 32s, 33s, 34s. Jimmy Taylor wore 31 in the pros, but not at LSU. Dominic Davis. What's up, JP? It's funny, JP, when I looked at this, when I looked at this photo, everybody welcome JP to the channel. This is one of my favorite PHL photos at first. I thought this was your hairstyle. I thought this, let me know if anyone else saw this at first. I thought your hair was this light pole, or is that a ceiling fan, or is that a bedpost right there? That is so interesting. Yeah, Doug, you're a big baseball guy, so I know you knew Wally Pontiff. But also, okay, so you saw the man bun too. Okay, so it wasn't just me. All right. So I'm trying to figure out if this is a bedpost or if this is a ceiling fan. Okay. JP, this is so interesting because if this is a ceiling fan, I have to admit, that is the fastest moving ceiling fan I have ever seen. Y'all see it? It's this like that ceiling fan, or you might okay, so it is a fan. Okay. That ceiling fan is moving. Like, I mean, that ceiling fan is Tyreek Hill. My ceiling fan is like Mac Jones level speed. Like it is slow. But that ceiling fan, man, you could throw a potato and French fries come down. God bless. That ceiling fan is moving. I could power a 737. I mean, goodness gracious. I know you are cool at night. God, I love it. I need that in my room. You want to talk some Mason Lunsford? Okay, H-Town Creole. Yeah, I mean, Mason's got a good shot, man. Brian Kelly loves him some maulers. We got we got 4 total people in the PHL bracket challenge. JSB is the famous 31. Nobody wanted to follow that. Nobody. But I love it, JP. Welcome to the channel. We do live streams Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Is this your first time watching the PHL channel? 160 mile per hour winds in there. I mean, am I just seeing this, JP, with this? Does your ceiling fan actually move? I mean, that thing is. I'm just perplexed at how fast the ceiling fan is moving. Like, this is the most awesome ceiling fan I think I've ever seen. I don't know. I kind of want to go live tomorrow and just do a 1-hour live stream on the ceiling fan. Like, mine's is just not. Let me see if I can lift it. You see, mine has no speed. That is hardly any ceiling fan speed. Look at that. I mean, God bless. That thing is slow. I mean, goodness gracious. Tom Brady runs a faster 40 than my ceiling fan. Y'all have to admit that ceiling, and this is a joke. This is top speed. I need a ceiling fan that if I put my hand up in it, I am a nub. You guys know a nub. That's me. I got a Captain Hook this thing. Let's go. Will is pumped up. He saw my ceiling fan. Just, I mean, JP, I need that quality in my life. If you super chat right now, the super chat funds are going to a new ceiling fan. I mean, there's just no airflow in here. Type Y for yes, type N for no in the chat. Okay, type Y for yes, type N for no in the chat. Does my ceiling fan suck? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I mean, it's got a decent, at least it's a consistent flow. And, you know, like some ceiling fans will make like a loud noise, like whoof, whoof, whoof. Jared, here is the bracket link for you. I mean, God bless. Yeah, Zach. So Zach is actually in the sports card industry. If you are a patron and you win the bracket challenge, you're getting this Jamar Chase 1 of 1, which is actually, worth something. I give out a lot of cards. Normally, they're anywhere from like the $5 to $10 range, sometimes $20 range. I don't know what this is even worth, but it's worth something. Okay. So, if you're a patron, you're already qualified to win this card. Now, if you are not a patron, you can still sign up and you will win a sealed DJ Chark autograph card with a piece of his jersey in there. Okay. Box fans get the job done. Let's go. So my dad is like a box fan fanatic. He's got to have like 4 fans in his room. But he is a big oscillation guy. Okay. You guys know the oscillation? Oh, this is my sports card buddy, Will. What's up, man? Will might join the Patreon to win the Jamar Chase card. Okay. But why whenever they made fans, okay? Whenever they made fans, why don't they just call it a turning fan? No, they had to use a fancy term. Oscillation. Like, what other thing in the world oscillates outside of a fan? Nothing. You've never said, hey, did you see that Shaquille O'Neal oscillation move in the post? No, you say the Shaquille O'Neal spin move or he turned. But oscillation. Got to use fancy words. Don't get it. Overcomplicated. Just say the fan turns, but no, it oscillates. I do think so, Chance. I do. So, Buster, you get to pick the next topic. I love a good dad joke. Jared, y'all, oh my God. I need some clap emojis in the chat right now. Buster's big time super chat just stole the thunder from Jared. Jared, your dad joke humor is so good. I know Jared has 50 pairs of white New Balances, 30 pairs of jean shorts, and he is out at the grill every Saturday afternoon. That's how good of a dad joke this is. Goodness gracious. That is brilliance. That is brilliance right there. Max wants to talk some Dellinger. We can talk some Dellinger. Ross Dellinger or Garrett Dellinger? I think they spell it a little bit different. But I love that. No, your fan isn't good. It blows. God, that is so good. I love it. I love that dad joke. I do. I lost 20 viewers talking about fans and dad jokes. But dad gummit, that is so cheesy. Oh my God. Your fan doesn't suck. It blows. God, that is so good. Oh man, that is so funny. There's so many other dad jokes you can do from that too. Oh my God. There's so many. Blows is like the endless dad joke word. That is so good. It's so good. I just can't get over how good that is. It's so stupid. It is so good. It is so good. It is so good. Oh my God. It's so good. Oh man. Oh man. I just can't get over that. So yeah, I think, for Garrett Dellinger, and this is going to sound like really stupid, all right? But the issue for Delly is when he is going up against someone that is a bona fide NFL guy, he gets beat really bad. Like when he gets whipped, he gets whipped. right? And we saw them with Jalen Carter. We saw that in the Texas A&M game where they put him at left tackle. And that just wasn't a good situation for him as a true freshman. So yeah, I think the big gap for him is closing that gap when he's going up against someone that is better than him. Now I know it's not some amazing analysis that when he got beat by better players. That's going to happen, right? Especially if you're only a year one or year two lineman who's had a lot of injuries. But one area that I think Will Campbell and Emory Jones did not get enough credit for was they are really good when they're losing a rep, getting back into the rep. Okay. Those two players in particular are really good at that. And honestly, Will is one of the best I've ever seen at that. Because there are times where this guy gets beat or he might be a little slow off the ball or, someone's bull rushing him and he finds his way back into a rep. And I love watching players like that. That means that guy is really competing and like he just never gives up. And I love watching that. So yeah, there's a good question here. I'd like to see Lunsford play SEC guys. So true. And playing SEC schedule is more difficult. My retort to that though would be, number one, I like the way that this guy, okay, as someone who digs through hours of huddle to find more reps of a player to get, a more overall, view of an athlete. I love that Mason Lunsford. Obviously, it's his highlight tape, so he's not going to put highlights of him getting beat on there. But number one, on his Twitter bio, he had a Google Drive link that anybody could put up. So the Google Drive link is a link to his 10-minute highlight tape. And it is the YouTube interface, which is very easy. Everybody's done YouTube. Everybody knows YouTube. And the thing that he did in that tape that was really impressive was it wasn't just clips from this year. It wasn't just clips from bad opponents. It was home and away games versus Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. Now, we can SEC this and SEC that. Those three schools have produced as good, if not better, defensive linemen than any SEC school over the past couple of years. Okay. So, that was impressive, right? Those are SEC level lines. The Big Ten has great defensive linemen. That has never been a Big Ten issue. And there are some clips of him mauling guys that'll play on Sundays. But then again, you always got to answer this question for anybody that's transferring that is eligible to go to the NFL draft or could stay at their school is why aren't they in the NFL yet? And I think some of it is pass protection. We'll see how he grows as, a pass protector. I've not gotten a chance to just sit and watch full games of him, but I do think part of the issue is speed, right? When you're going up against, some of these guys. I mean, there's some 3 techs that'll eat your lunch, even at guard, right? Obviously, at tackle, speed is always going to be a little bit more of an issue as an offensive lineman because you're going up against faster players. But yeah, I guess because most of his clips in his highlight tape is run blocking. I guess pass blocking is maybe a situation where he's not the best. I've not been able to really look at it. But I feel pretty good about him. I do. It might just be my optimism, but we'll see. But yeah, I don't think this is a case where level of competition is a thing because you put clips in there of him going up against those guys. And those are 4 and 5 stars, all 3 of those teams. All 3 of those teams have beasts on the lines every year. So let's go to Buster. Your super chat here is, how do the brackets work? Well, it's pretty simple. So in the bracket challenge, so we got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people signed up. So essentially it's round by round, and the more picks you get closer to the end of the tournament correct, like you fill it out previous to the bracket, which starts on Thursday. Okay, it actually starts on Tuesday, but it really doesn't start counting on Thursday until Thursday. As the rounds go on, if your teams that you pick keep advancing, you get more points. So the first round, I think it's like 1 point per win, and then the second round is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, whatever. But honestly, what ultimately wins a lot of these bracket challenges with how their point systems actually work is who, if you pick the team that wins it all. So, if you pick, let's say, Tennessee to win it all, and they actually do win it all, you are going to probably win the bracket. So there you go. And once again, if you are a patron, and Buster, you are already a patron, Jamar Chase, this card goes to you. Okay. It's a 1 of 1. Don't like giving these out. But got to pull out the big guns for a big occasion, and it's March Madness, baby. But D really makes a good point. Okay. You got to have depth. On the offensive line in particular, you got to have depth. Okay. Buster, it could be yours. It could be yours. Okay. So I'm looking into, I was looking to see if we had any extra super chats. One thing I think, one thing I think about March Madness this year is, like, I love the tournament. I really do. I don't recall having as much fun as I've had watching college basketball this past week. And I always kind of felt this way. I always feel the conference tournaments are as good, if not better, than March Madness a lot of the times. Because, March Madness is just so random. A random group of people in some random room send you to random locations around the country. And it's a very subjective thing. Now, the games are great. They're captivating. It's for the whole shebang. But the conference tournaments do seem a little bit more pure, right? You know where they are every year. It's very regional. You get a lot of these rivalries. They're very wacky, and it's for a bid to the dance. So it's like you have, you get these big tournaments like the Penn State Purdue game was really good today. But the truth here is you also get You also get these games, these mid-major games where it's for everything, right? These one bid leagues, man, these games are so much fun. I watched this, and the game wasn't captivating at the end. I think it was Toledo versus Kent State, and the energy in that room was just so crazy. So you get like 18 mini March Madnesses, which I think is pretty fun. Know how? This is like a mid-major tournament. It's a one bracket competition. I think I have the limit for one bracket. Let me see. Yeah, it's one entry. Okay. One entry per person. Okay. I don't like the multiple bracket thing for this reason. All right. So I am proud to announce that I'm still going to be doing some stuff with the Underdog Fantasy. I love Underdog Fantasy. I'm a heavy partaker in Underdog. Once again, if you want to support PHL, go type in the promo code Carter and sign yourself up. So yeah, I love Underdog Fantasy. The one thing though, when you do the Underdog Fantasy stuff, is there are people that put 15 entries in these big super contests, and they're all math wizards, and they have a lot more variance, obviously, with their lineups and all of that. And you really don't stand a chance. And that's why, like every bracket group I'm in, I am a one entry guy. So I think that's how it should be, because some people will fill out a bracket where they pick all their favorite teams, how like what they would want to happen. And then you have a bracket where you're objectively trying to win this. I believe the former is not as fun as the latter, right? Because I was in a bracket last year with a bunch of Razorbacks, and one of the big upsets was Arkansas beating Gonzaga last year. And, if you pick Gonzaga, you're obviously picking them to go all the way to the Final Four. So, you know, you begin to see who the real Arkansas fans are, right? Are you going to pick your team, or are you going to pick, the prohibitive favorite, right? And then you had the Holmgren kid, right? So there you go. But yeah, if you did unlimited entries or 4 entries or whatever, especially if it's a free contest, it's a lot. Hal's a big college basketball guy. I love it. Let's go, Hal. We were crushing the moistures the other night, bro. Still can't still can't believe Branson and Donovan are chatting with each other. You guys have to be enemies until May. Enemies. Okay. But it is official tonight. PHL Idol in May. Okay. I kind of want to reveal who the country star is that's joining us. I kind of do. But I want to wait. I want to wait. I want to wait. He was pretty excited. I talked to him. Like I said earlier, last time I talked to him was in 2020. So when I texted him, I was like, man, this guy sells out. He's got 1,000 different things going on. And he was like, hell yeah, I'm doing it, baby. And he's also an LSU fan, so it helps out. I think. I'm not going to text him now. I got to be honest. Okay. I'm just being honest. So Donovan and Branson are doing originals. All right, Jared is going to bed. Yeah, I get it. So, if I was a 17, 18, or 19-year-old kid, okay, when a kid commits to LSU, all right, I will always retweet that kid. I always will. If a kid decommits from LSU, I will always share that news. One thing I don't get, though, is when a kid, so, when a kid signs somewhere and then, has second thoughts, and immediately you go look at their comment section. So I went and looked at the Brandon Hillman, the kid that was at Notre Dame. He got out of his NLI, and obviously I want him to come to LSU, right? If Brian Kelly likes him, I like him. But I can't imagine being a 17 or 18 or 19-year-old kid, and right when you back out of your signature, your comment section is filled with people saying, come to Virginia Tech, come to LSU, come to Miami, come to this school, come to that school. That is wild. If I was in that kid's position, I would be like, dang, I should do this more often. I should transfer just every year I possibly can transfer. My name is back in the news. I get a new wave of followers. People know who I am. That dopamine hit, are you kidding me? All these people really want me to go to that school? I've always found that to be interesting, right? So you'll never see me like immediately go to that kid's section, especially after an NLI. Now, maybe a decommitment in high school, maybe. I might have done that a time or two. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at every tweet I've ever done, but it's always interesting. Like I'm not saying that it's just like an evil thing to do to ask it, cheer for a kid to come to your school. I'm just saying it is crazy how many people will fly into this kid's DMs or comment section saying, "Come here, come here, come here." It's crazy. All right. So in the next 5 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. I did not know we were on for 2 hours and 30 minutes. That is crazy. It has flown by. It's been a fun Sunday night live stream. I'm enjoying the Sunday nights. I'm glad you guys picked me over the Oscars. Are you kidding me? I don't remember the last full movie I watched. What was it? I don't know. I've always liked movies, but I don't know. My show Ted Lasso is about to start back up. There's a lot of TV shows I want to watch. My wife started Emily in Paris today. I've been to Paris. I kind of want to watch it myself. I kind of want to watch. I've never watched The Wire. I feel like, that's what everyone tells me is the only show that they think is better than Breaking Bad. So I kind of want to watch that. I've never been a huge TV show guy. And I still got to fill out my own bracket. But yeah, apparently Angela Bassett didn't win and she didn't have a good reaction to it. I kind of want to see this. I've always liked her. Money Heist is the show, Branson Cat. I've heard of this one. What's it about? How do you do a bracket challenge? I'm surprised there's not more of you that have not filled out a bracket online. There you go. Never heard of a bracket challenge or never heard of a movie? I've got to pull up this. I've got to see it. Oh. No, that's vicious. Oh, man. That's crazy. Oh, man. That's vicious. I'm not allowed to play the footage. I do remember clear as day, though. I do remember clear as day. Okay. Being where I am right now. Okay. And a year ago. All right. Now, once again, I did want to share this tonight. So I'm glad the Angela Bassett thing happened. It wasn't anything. She just really wanted the Oscar. And I like it. I here's my thing. This is why I like Angela Bassett so much. Is if you lose the award and you really want it, don't cheer for the other people that wanted it, because then it's not competition, right? Show some discomfort. Show some pain that you didn't win, right? Now, I know there's betting markets now that can tell you who's actually going to win the awards, but for real, show some emotion. I'd rather see if an artist is pissed if they didn't win. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people fear, the blowback from that, but, and I know that's acting. So you are technically acting happy for someone when you actually wanted the award, but be pissed. I want you to be pissed. If you really are pissed. Now, if you really are happy for somebody, clap for them. But if you're pissed, be pissed. Right? I just went through this with Hey, right? Harry Styles won the big award over Beyonce, and I wanted people to be mad that Beyonce didn't win. I wanted Beyonce to be mad. It's fine. Okay. That's what I love about sports. There's an objective score at the end of every single game. There's a winner and a loser. But I do want to share this. I was live on PHL when the Will Smith slap happened. Beyonce is not overrated. Bay is overrated? That's a take. Beyonce is properly rated. She is one of the best musical artists of all time. Practice, the players are on spring break, so Tuesday, March 21st. So not this Tuesday, but the next. But I was live in the when the losers are always robbed, though, right? I was live when the Chris Rock slap happened to Will Smith. And I am a massive fan of both. Fresh Prince was my favorite show growing up. I watched probably that show more than any other like sitcom comedy. And Chris Rock is obviously someone that means a lot to me. And obviously I watched the special last Sunday. I spent a lot of money to go see him play in Chicago. And actually missed a half of an LSU game to go watch him perform in Chicago. And I won't tell the crazy story about how that actually happened, but it happened. And we still did the show and film studies and all of it from Chicago. So it worked out. But that's how much I love Chris Rock. Okay. I knew that was my only opportunity to ever see this guy live. And I knew, the profound impact he had on me when I did comedy. So I remember when that happened, and like I remember seeing my comment section just get blitzed with everybody saying Will Smith just slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. Okay. I remember it clear as day. And I didn't know how I felt. I didn't, because that was just one of those big moments in like history. And I don't know if Jimmy did any jokes tonight about Chris. I'm sure he did. So yeah, it's nuts. And I understand this, okay? I don't care what anyone says. You talk about my wife, and we got a problem. True, if anybody talks about your wife, but it's a comedian. You're an A-lister. You have history with Chris Rock. A-listers joke about other A-listers, and they were laughing about the joke at first, right? Until a lot changed in a few seconds, and it turned into a slap. And I highly recommend, Chris spoke for himself in the new special. As a huge Chris Rock fan, I'm super biased towards Chris because he's my favorite, but, everybody's got their own opinion about that, okay? I get it. But what I will say about, that situation is, like, Chris still did an hour special where only 15 minutes of that hour was that material, okay? So it wasn't just like he did an entire, what a lot of people got wrong about the special is that was some of his most profound material that he has ever done about his daughter and his grandmother. I'm not going to say what the material was, but go watch it and tell me if you don't think what he said was crazy. But it's just context. Like, if I walk into a room, I am not going to just joke. Like, if I'm on stage, it's different, right? And I have gotten somebody, when I was doing a show, I was ironically wearing this shirt. I was doing a show where I did a joke because a wife interrupted me, and I could tell somebody wasn't really happy about it. Now, the guy didn't say anything to me after the show. He just left. But understand, when a comedian's up there, a lot is fair game. I know the Oscars is different than a comedy club. We can get into a discussion about that. But in general, you are right. Like, you should not walk up to random people or even people because some people don't make jokes like that, okay? Some people just don't. So it obviously depends on the situation. But even with my love for Chris Rock to the side, okay, I am on Chris Rock's side in that situation, okay? There is no way that in that situation, that slapping them hard in their face justify the material that was actually said about, the person at hand. So I just have a tough time reconciling that. Even my love for Chris aside, me being a former stand-up, I'm siding with Chris. Now, does that mean I'm less of a Will Smith fan? Not really. Not really. But it does bring a part of good debate. What exactly is joking? How far can we actually go? My rule of thumb is this: unless you know the people, unless you know them, don't do it. Okay? Perfect example. And I will say this publicly. I played a joke tonight on Haley's best friend. Okay? It's just a stupid little joke. I know this person. Okay? I know her husband. I would not have played this joke on a stranger. Okay? It wasn't anything just crazy. It was just a little joke. Her husband's great. Awesome. PHL supporter. Would not have done that if I didn't know the guy. Would not have done it. It wasn't anything, grotesque or anything like that. It was just a stupid little thing. Would not have done it if I didn't feel like I could do that with him. Okay. And he's also like someone that I'm not like super duper like close with, but I know him fair enough. Like I've been around him fair enough. He was at my wedding. So I felt pretty confident that he was okay with that. You should never, play jokes on people unless you know that person, or joke about them unless you know that person, because people come from different cultures. People don't understand humor. There's a lot of people that don't understand comedy. They don't understand jokes. There could be the absolute most obvious form of satire being performed right in front of their face, and they still don't get it. They still don't know. Right? And, for instance, there are some people that are watching this tonight that didn't probably get Jared's "it blows" joke from earlier about the fan. Okay. They probably didn't get the entendre there. Right. So some people just don't get humor. They just don't. Like they don't get it. They immediately think you're being serious. There's a lot of people that just it's hard. It's hard for them to do it. I am not a stand-up. I was a former stand-up. I've not been on stage. What was that last show? Last October, maybe? I got asked to do an April 1st gig. I don't know. I don't know if I still got it. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think I got it anymore. Some people, they don't have to, like, some people can just walk up on a stage and just murder. And they can quit for 4 months and just murder. Exactly. He laughed first. But then against Jordan, you consume a lot of stand-up. A lot. Probably more than most. So you understand humor. Like if you went to a Rory Scovel show, you would understand what he was doing, right? But there's a lot of comedians that people just don't get. Like like Brian Regan is like one of my favorite stand-ups on the planet. Haley hates him. Hates him. I don't think any less of Haley because she doesn't like Brian Regan. She just hates him. I adore the man. Adore him. But you have to understand that he is a goofy human. Now, it is not necessarily a caricature. He actually is just a very goofy, awkward guy. But it's also a hyperbolization of some of his experiences, right? And that's what a lot of comedy is. It's just hyperbole of some of your experiences, right? But yeah, I mean, like some people, there would be a lot of people that went to like an 85 South show and not understand what the heck they were watching. But it's really good. I particularly like those guys. Some people just don't. It's not really their thing. There's a lot of famous comedians that is just not me. It's just not for me. So, there's different strokes for different folks. Burr is very properly rated. Exactly. Michael B. Exactly. It shouldn't be serious. Good to have you back, Michael B. But yeah, some material is not just like straightforward. Like some people don't think Nate Bargatze's funny. I think he's great. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of comedians that sell out everywhere now, especially with social media. They sell out everywhere. Everywhere. I don't think a lot of these people are funny. I don't. But it's not for me. So you'll never just see me at a debate, at a discussion earlier with Branson Cat, okay, about country music. So Branson obviously partakes in PHL Idol coming up. He's a contestant, but he is a songwriter. I'm not a big Eric Church guy. I'm not a big country music guy in general, but like I've never understood Eric Church thing. Talked to my best friend from Baton Rouge on the phone earlier tonight. His name's Jordan, and he is an Eric Church super fan. He is in the 1% of the Eric Church fandom. It's just not for me. It's not for me. I just don't. I don't get it. But that's why he's got a song, "Mr. Misunderstood." I might just not understand him. But yeah, some things just aren't for you. Some people think some things are funny, some people don't. Yeah, Roseanne Barr. Okay, so Roseanne Barr. Obviously, things have gotten a little wild for her over the past 5 years. But if you actually just go listen to her old stuff, I was just randomly driving. I believe I was driving my mom's car, so she had Sirius XM, and I listened to a lot of comedy on Sirius XM, and I put it on just like one of the comedy channels, and it was some of Roseanne Barr's like old stuff, and she was so freaking good, like so freaking good. Just I don't even remember what the material was. It had me dying, and it is hard to make a comedian laugh because you hear everything. But some of I don't even remember what the material was about. It was so good. But yeah, some people don't like it. And it was nothing political or anything like that. It was just awesome. I was like, God, I could see why she was like the biggest. And I see why she was the biggest comedian on the planet for a while. Definitely the biggest, female comedian on the planet. She was a monster. I agree with Michael B. and you too, H. John Creole. That's crazy. Arkansas won both men's and women's indoor track and field natty today. There you go. So being in a group chat with a bunch of Arkansas fans, like I never bring up the track and field thing because obviously they're happy when they win those things, but they've not won a football, basketball, or baseball one since 94, right? And I'm telling you, it's going to take this man passing, unfortunately. But Nolan Richardson is so freaking iconic. Man, he is just so iconic. Like the Larry Bird Hall of Fame story went viral again. That is some of the funniest. That's the funniest basketball story I've ever heard in my life. Is that Larry Bird story? And it's so iconic because you see Bill Russell, you see Larry Bird's there, Magic Johnson's there. I mean, Nolan Richardson was a force, and if it weren't for him, they would have no natties in the three major sports since '64. Because they lost the College World Series a few years ago. For those that don't know, obviously LSU is really good at baseball, but even if we just like sucked in baseball, which LSU baseball doesn't, but at least we have a natty in 09. At least we got 6 national champions. Arkansas's been to Omaha a crap ton under Dave Van Horn. They've not won it yet. And they had a foul ball in the 2018 College World Series that was relatively routine, and they dropped it, and Oregon State came back and won the game. If they catch that foul ball, it's over. It's over. They win their first national championship in the 3 major sports. But now when they win another track and field national championship, it's more so used as a joke now because, when recruits go on these visits and they display the national championship trophies, it's kind of like the Texas joke that they used to make on their recruiting visits, because Texas players would always take photos in front of all their swimming and diving trophies. And they won that championship in 05, but still, a lot of these players were infants. So, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, Arkansas lost. If you think we have bad luck in sports, and every school has bad luck, you do not have it like an Arkansas fan. You just don't. You just don't. Think of any SEC fan base, you don't have it like them. Ole Miss, crappy baseball program. Well, decent baseball program. They're not crappy. They're really good. But they had no business winning the national championship last year. They won it. South Carolina, they made a Final Four in men's, and they're the best women's program on the planet. Think of every SEC program. They got something. They have something. Maybe Vanderbilt doesn't, but they have something to show for it in recent memory. Okay. Not Arkansas. Nothing. No national championships. That's brutal. That's brutal. Think about how long ago 94 was. Think about that. That's a long time. That is a long, it's 20 years ago. Barry Switzer, Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, they were good. Frank Broyles. But yeah, the 64 Arkansas team. A&M is the worst. They have underachieved. Yeah, A&M's got it worse. I'm sorry. So adjust that. Huh? Tennessee doesn't. True, especially their baseball program. But if Arkansas or Tennessee wins it all in basketball this year, you never know. Was that 30 years ago? That is 30 years ago. It's late. You can tell Branson's still in school. He got at his TI 83 and had me ready to go. I like it. 30 years ago. Speaking of comedians, Fortune Femster, I love her. She has this great bit that I saw of I think this is her bit. like how the old school calculators, if you put what is it, 80085, you put it upside down, it says boobs or something like that. I don't know. The real TI-83s, the old school calculators, you guys know it. Let me know, Chance. I might be missing something here. I'll look it up real quick. Okay. So they have a golf title. In 2009, women's basketball title in 2011. So you are right. They did win one somewhat recently. That's right. Vanderbilt has baseball championships. Thank you for correcting me on that. So they do. So maybe Arkansas is the most cursed SEC program. So Kentucky had a basketball title, the Anthony Davis team. So yeah, maybe Tennessee is. I don't know. Oh, there you go, Sherry. Yeah, Sherry actually won a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire card for I think we did something for the Bengals game or something like that. They are, but that's what's painful is now it's kind of become a punchline, right? Like I'll pull it up. Once again, in a group chat with I think 10 other Fayetteville grads. That's a crazy story. So, which one? I'm curious. It's cool. Women's b-ball, awesome. That was such a fun time when the LA Tech ran women's basketball. Pat Henry. This is true. Like I don't even make the track and field jokes anymore. Like it's crazy. And like you begin to realize like just how good we've had it as like an LSU fan, right? We've had it good. We've had it good. Yeah, I don't know where Mbappe's going. I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely not Liverpool that everyone rumored 1,000 times over. Definitely not that. I'm a huge Mbappe fan. I do like him a lot. We had a good time, man. Had a really good time. Man, we had a lot going on. We talked about the commitment, obviously, Jackson Howard. Talked a lot about the Brandon Miller and Jalen Carter situation. Talked some Jaden Daniels. Announced PHL Idol. Pretty excited about that. Pretty excited to have like a pretty cool musician hopping on. Pretty excited about that. But yeah, I have no idea where Mbappe's going. And I just got to hope Liverpool figures this thing out. We have got to get in the top 4. It's not looking good after the Bournemouth L. But damn, you beat somebody 7-0. One of the biggest clubs on the planet, you beat them 7-0. And you lose 1-0 to Bournemouth. Now, I will say one thing. One thing we did not talk about, and Pierce, I don't think is in here anymore. We didn't talk Pelicans. I know TJ was in here a little bit earlier. They won big tonight versus the Trailblazers. Really excited about that. Anytime, we've always just kind of had Portland's number for whatever reason. I don't know why. Obviously, Lillard is just freaking incredible. Trendon Walford. Lillard didn't play. So, yeah. We dominated them, though. Trey Murphy had 41 tonight. 41. Okay. So, here's what I'll say. I think Trey Murphy's going to be a really good player. But there was something kind of cryptic that happened before the game. Okay, so Pierce is still in here. Good. There was something cryptic that happened after the game, and it kind of, made some headlines that it was a way that Willie Green brought up the Brandon Ingram situation, okay? Willie Green said Brandon Ingram worked out again today, but is still feeling a bit of soreness. Okay. Now, full disclosure, I have not seen the video of Willie Green saying this about Brandon Ingram. So the power, it always goes off like this. The power of the written word is always worse than the video. So I'm lacking some context on this quote, but a lot of people tweeted it out. So it's probably not as bad. But the point is, this was a high leverage playoff game. And NFL guys, if it is a high leverage game, nobody is sitting out with a little bit of soreness. You want to know why? Because every NFL game is worth quite a bit. EPL games are the same way. The Bournemouth loss negates a 7-0 win versus a team with 50x the bankroll of the team that just beat you. A team that has players that have won Champions Leagues and World Cups versus a team that would never have a player come close to even being called up for those kinds of games. The NBA's got to fix this. It just does. It's another year of all this nonsense, and it's not good. It's not good. And, and I know I bitch and moan about it a lot on here, and I said the B word, so I'll probably get demonetized. That's fine. The NBA was my favorite thing growing up. It really was. I would sit and watch every game with my dad, every single game. Y'all, it is infuriating to see this. It is infuriating. Okay? Say what you want about the 90s guys. And then those guys miss games. Those guys, it might just be nostalgic, but they played 82 game seasons. They didn't miss out with a little bit of soreness. Okay? So am I calling the league soft? I am. Not everybody, obviously. It's a little bit of a bold blanket statement to say these guys are 10 times the athletes I'll ever be. But you cannot argue to the contrary at this point. So, yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue. I think about whoever in New Orleans. Golden State plays 2 times in New Orleans early in the season. Steph Curry sat out of both of those games healthy. And then you have the tanking, and then it's just it's a mess. It is a mess. Okay. Exactly, Michael B. It's not only too many games. Okay. I'm telling you, and I understand that this is going to come off not tone deaf, if you will, but it is a little bit different. And Pegasus has this perspective as I do because he's a fan of European soccer. But when you get exposed to how they do things over there, you do begin to see things a little bit differently in how we run our sports leagues. And, over there, every game means the exact same. There's no playoffs in how their leagues are actually formulated. Oh, yeah, if you finish in last place in your league, you don't get rewarded with the number 1 draft pick. In fact, it is the opposite. They send your rear end to the minor leagues and replace you with the minor league team. That's how they do it. Okay? And it's not just the worst team, it's the bottom 3 teams. They replace you with 3 minor league teams. That's how it works. They penalize you for losing. In the NBA, we reward you with losing. NFL, we reward you for losing. Explain that. So, obviously we'll never have that system. I'm not asking for a relegation system in professional sports, but the one thing is when you get exposed to some of these things that happen overseas, you begin to see that it's different. Okay. And I know I've made this point a few times, but it once you see how those things happen, you begin to see, hey, you know what? That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And it's way better than how we do things. And something else is because these games mean so much. Every game has the same amount of points that decide whether or not you win the league or not. You know what doesn't happen in those games? Rarely do you load manage superstars. Okay, sometimes you have to with how the Champions League schedule works itself out. Sometimes games aren't, sometimes, players aren't fit to play. They are nursing like a calf injury or something. So yeah, there's some of that. I'm not going to say that they absolve themselves of that. But number one, the tickets are cheaper. In many ways, they're cheaper. Just the ticketing is different over there. But number two is when I pay to go to that game, I know that not everybody's going to get load managed. I know that at least 10 of the 11 Liverpool superstars are going to be on the field. And I knew that when I was going overseas, right? So as an NBA fan, and I see these people, the Warriors load manage quite a bit. I see these people that say, hey, we drove 8 hours just to see Steph Curry play. You know what we're going to do? We're not going to play him. We're actually going to rest him. We're going to willingly rest him. And what that is telling you, the fan, that we are treating this game as a game that does not matter. Okay. And some of it is on the fans because, like you guys mentioned, we only care about titles. And I think I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. I'm pretty radical in how I would change the NBA. Actually, very radical, where players and teams would hate my ideas. But what I would say is this, okay? The one thing, and a lot of people crap on March Madness for this. A lot of people crap on March Madness. Why would we settle a national championship with a random 68 team tournament where a group of 12 people in some room decide the seeding of this tournament, sometimes with very flawed metrics? And these games are played in random locations in Grand Rapids and Greensboro and all these random towns and cities and all of that. And then people look at the NBA and they say, well, the NBA is a better way to decide a champion because you play 4 games out of 7. And these are actually played in the home courts of where these teams play, which I actually like. But the contrary is actually true. I feel like, yes, a 7-game series will tell you who the better team is in the long run, right? Because, it's a 7-game series. But the one thing that no one has ever been able to explain to me when I bring this up is why do we decide the NBA championship with a format that is never played at any level of basketball? Like, really think about that. Basketball at every level, the college level, the high school level, the AAU level, preschool level, basketball is never decided in a series format. And if you actually watch the NBA playoffs, you see how different the playoffs are officiated. You see how different playoff games actually move. It becomes slower half-court slog games. It's officiated differently. The culture around the game is different. And the regular season, it's almost a completely different sport. The only thing that remains static is the actual basics of the game of basketball: the length of the floor, the height of the goal. All the basic things about basketball stays the same, but everything else changes outside of the players and the coaches themselves. Okay, so I think, and I shared this, that someone had a viral tweet: what is your most controversial NBA take? Mine is, every NBA champion that has ever been decided has been decided with a flawed format. And what the NBA failed to do was, yes, a playoff generates more revenue. Yes, a playoff generates more games. Yes, it generates more excitement. But what could have fixed a lot of this is if they celebrated who the regular season champion actually was more. Because if you do that, it makes the 82 games that every team has to play a more valuable resource instead of an afterthought. Okay? It is the same thing here. Same thing here. NBA playoffs, I watched quite a bit of it, especially now that the Pelicans were in it last year. And I'm a big fan of the NBA. Chris Paul, all of them. Love them all. Not all of them, but the NBA was my first love. And I love the playoff format, lots of drama. But I'm telling you, the 7-game series is ridiculous. The more I think about it, it is more ridiculous. A 5-game series, I can understand. A 3-game series, I think, would actually be perfect, but that would never happen. But a 7-game series is ridiculous. yes and no to this, because what I would say is this, all right? I don't necessarily agree that the best team wins a 7-game series, okay? What I would say, though, is the team better equipped to win a 7-game series is oftentimes a team with more talented players, but they may not necessarily be the best team, right? Like, I think some players or games are more suited for, random one-offs, right? And what my argument to that would be, Pegasus, is the game is changing, right? Playing a game over a 7-game period, um, is different than in a than you play one game here and you play one game there. It's not a completely different sport, but every NBA player who's ever existed will tell you how different the games are, right? They have that now, though, don't they? I agree. I like the fact that Adam Silver is open to like new ideas. The issue, though, is he is always going to fold, right? He's almost too pro player, in a way, right? Here's a good question. So why is the 7-game series ridiculous in basketball but not baseball? Well, everything I just said, think of everything I said with the basketball stuff, is the same thing in baseball. Why would you play a 162 game season, okay, and it'd be decided by 2 months of baseball? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. However, what I would say is I think a 7-game series is a little bit more justifiable in baseball because baseball is a series sport. Every Major League Baseball game played in the regular season is played in a series. So, you know, I think it is a little bit more justifiable. Basketball is never a series. It's never a series. Now, you sometimes play the same team like back to back, like within a 3-game period. That happens a lot, actually. But at least baseball's played in a series, and it is a little bit more reflective of your entire pitching staff. But still, I still stand by it. I think in every sport we should, and this comes off as me saying something like participation trophy and it's soft or whatever, but the fact we do not celebrate regular season teams more often is crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy. It's asinine. And honestly, it hurts you as a fan. It does. Imagine if we lived in a society where, all these games that are played that take up 90% of the season, okay, 90% of the games that are played in all, why don't we celebrate that more than the last few games of a season? So 60-game season would be spread out, would be way better. Also, there would be like 5 teams in the playoff. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all this. And look, most NBA champions, I think all NBA champions in recent memory were 3 seeds or better. So, oftentimes the teams that are the best in the regular season do end up winning the title. But, I still I still don't like it. When you hear like Draymond Green saying at the end of this last finals, I'd rather have guys that are good for 16 games and 80 games or something like that, which isn't, which honestly is smart because that's what we value, who wins these games at the end of the year. But it's still wild to me. It is still so wild to me that you know fans 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 are shorting themselves. Okay? I would disagree with this. Just think about us after 2 horrible seasons, won the SEC West, and fans don't really care about that. Did we win the chip? I disagree. I think a lot of LSU fans were ecstatic that we won the West this year, especially after the 2 seasons. Now, what I would say to the contrary is, yeah, we're a national championship golden standard program, and you're only going to be remembered for national championships. Totally get that. But I also think, especially in college football, it's a somewhat short-sighted way of looking at things, right? So, like, Shane Beamer, I think, is as talented as any young coach in the country. He's never, and I mean never, going to win a playoff at South Carolina. It is near impossible. He would need to hit on every portal guy, and he's recruiting better in South Carolina. And South Carolina produces like a decent amount of talent. So maybe if every single star aligned, maybe. And ultimately, we will only remember the national championship teams at LSU. So in a way, you're right about this. Okay. But, number one, I think a lot of fans were ecstatic we won the West this year. Number two, even if fans weren't ecstatic that we won the West and went to the SEC championship game, even if that wasn't the case, who cares? I'm serious. Who cares? Like, yes, I won a national championship every year. Yes, we are one of the 10 programs that can win it every year. But different teams have like different challenges, right? Like there are some years where like clearly we were what we put on the field was like a massive disappointment, right? Like 2016 is one of the most talented LSU teams that will ever be fielded. And we saw that when this team completely obliterated a Heisman Trophy winner and NFL MVP, just annihilated them physically, mentally, and that was a bigger game for Louisville than it ever was for us. And we bludgeoned them, beat them to a pulp. But that was a disappointing year, right? There are years like that where it's like, God, I mean, we're more than this. Like we shouldn't, like this should not have been. This should have been at no less than a 10-win team. But there are some years where it's like that, and that was a very frustrating year. But it ended well. Okay, Arden Key, Jamal Adams, Dante Jackson, Darius Geis, Leonard Fournette. Who else? Trey White. Trey White was on that team. Ethan Posick, 2013. No, I don't think they're on that team. It's late. But yeah, there are some teams where it's like, God, we should have done more with this. But yeah, I tend to not be as championship or bust. Like I'm one of the few people that, yes, because of prior coaches, it is a massive disappointment if Brian Kelly doesn't win a national championship at LSU. But I'm also one of these guys that says, well, if Brian Kelly wins 10 games every year and we have an occasional 11-win, 12-win season, and he gets to the title game and loses 2 close games, is he really a failure at LSU? No. But some people view him that way. It's a black or white thing. It's either you win the game or you don't. And that's a beauty of sports, but also it can be a curse sometimes because It's more complex than just that, right? Like, you know, how many coaches win 9 games back-to-back years at Vanderbilt? Like James Franklin did. I still don't know how he did it, but he did it. SEC was a little down. I'd be the first to tell you that, but that was incredible. And like Penn State's recruiting better, and he looks like he's got that ship moving, right? But you know, sometimes the ship is not moving, right? So there you go. Now, we went very long tonight. I enjoy doing the Sunday night live streams. I know a lot of you got to get up early for work tomorrow. Don't forget, join the bracket challenge. Okay. There you go. If you are a patron, you're qualified to win the Jamar Chase 1-of-1 card. Okay. Right there. If not, you're still qualified to win a DJ Chark. We're going to give out some other stuff as well. So we'll see you there. Okay. And tomorrow, I say tomorrow, it is tomorrow night. I'll be on with Blake, and I think we'll be live on Tuesday night. We might go live tomorrow night. Why not? It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. And tonight, we are doing, some Snoop Dogg pork chops. Let's go. Johnny 5, what's good? Let's go. Let's go.